A battle between humans and monsters unfolds on a vast, grassy field. The human army, led by the formidable Madame Dark, braces themselves and charges head-on as wyverns from the monster faction descend from the skies. The confrontation is fierce, the clash is brutal, yet amidst the chaos, a young knight fights with an unmistakable spark of excitement, exchanging blow after blow with the enemy. Surprisingly, this intense war is merely a VR game. Over the Fantasy, commonly abbreviated as OTF, a niche title among the youth of 203X. By this time, technology and gaming have advanced to unprecedented heights, with virtual reality games replacing traditional video games entirely. Over the Fantasy, our boy's favorite game, stands as a prime example of this new era. However, unlike its contemporaries, it hasn't achieved mainstream popularity. Many players find its hyper-realistic gameplay daunting, with a difficulty level far surpassing other games. Additionally, Over the Fantasy diverges from the trend of microtransaction-heavy titles. Instead, it requires only an initial purchase, offering no pay-to-win mechanics, a design choice both lauded and criticized by its audience. In Over the Fantasy, one cannot simply become stronger without possessing the necessary skills and abilities. What some consider weaknesses in the game, our boy finds utterly charming. So much so, that he has become a dedicated no-lifer in Over the Fantasy. Today, he feels like the hours at work are dragging, as he eagerly awaits the game's first major update in 3 years. The much-anticipated release of Chapter 2 is scheduled for midnight, still 5 hours away. Determined to prepare for the update, our boy hops into his VR chamber and boots up Over the Fantasy. The system scans and recognizes his iris, confirming his identity as Kim Junhwa. With that, our boy enters the game, greeted by the system asking him to select a character. While most players might be called no-lifers for having 3 max-level characters in Over the Fantasy, Junhwa takes it to another level, boasting 7 max-level characters. However, today he bypasses his high-level champions and selects Dio, a humble level 10 character without a class. Dio wasn't created for glory or combat. Instead, he serves a far more practical purpose, storage. Junhwa made Dio purely to stash his items, a role he has faithfully fulfilled in Junhwa's adventures. Junhwa checks the updates coming to the game today and learns that a new class is being introduced, something our boy finds incredibly exciting. Afterward, he decides to gather items that enhance growth. While organizing the contents of Dio's storage, Junhwa quickly grows frustrated as he discovers hundreds of items cluttering the space. Sorting through it feels like rummaging through a real storage room, and he realizes it's going to take a while to get everything in order. It takes our boy much longer than expected to organize the storage, as things were far more jumbled than he had anticipated. Thankfully, the only task left is to visit the warehouse in Avera village. Once there, Junhwa asks the warehouse keeper, Tony, to open a subspace, paying the required fee of 1 silver. In Over the Fantasy, the storage system is designed so that the subspace fee increases with a character's level, which is why most players, including Junhwa, keep their storage characters at level 10. While checking the subspace, Junhwa notices the Leakin cookery knife among the items. He decides to move it to his inventory so he can hand it off to another character later. With that, our boy continues his meticulous preparations for the long-awaited update. Junhwa can't quite remember why he stuffed so many trash items into the subspace instead of discarding them outright. As he continues sorting through the clutter, he suddenly receives a notification. The server inspection before the major update will begin in 15 minutes. All adventurers are requested to move to a safe location and log out. Our boy is stunned by the notification, realizing that he has spent over 5 hours just organizing his warehouse. Even so, Junhwa decides not to log out. Instead, he keeps organizing, confident that the system will automatically disconnect him when the update begins. Despite the fact that Avera Village is typically recommended for players of level 100 and above, Junhwa feels secure. As long as his level 10 Dio stays within the village square, there's no real danger. With this in mind, he pushes aside any concerns and focuses on hastily finishing his inventory organization. A second notification pops up moments later, reminding adventurers that the server inspection will begin in just 5 minutes. The system urges players to move to a safe location and log out, but before it can fully deliver the message, it malfunctions. As a result, Junhwa becomes unable to send messages. a fact our boy remains blissfully unaware of. After a painstaking effort, Junwoo finally clears out his warehouse, suffering through the process because of the countless items he had crammed into storage. As our boy stretches his body in relief, he notices something strange. He hasn't been disconnected from the game. At first, he wonders if the inspection has been delayed, but he quickly realizes there hasn't been any notification to indicate such a change. This anomaly unsettles him, as it's entirely out of the ordinary. To address the situation, Junwoo attempts to log out manually, only to discover that the logout button is missing from its usual place. Adding to his confusion, he notices that his senses feel far sharper and clearer than ever before. He begins to question whether such a heightened level of realism could even be achieved, even with the most advanced virtual reality technology. Suspicious that something is seriously wrong, our boy decides to investigate further and heads toward the Dimensional Fissure. The Dimensional Fissure is the only place in Over the Fantasy where users can interact and play together, so our boy hopes he might find other players there. Junwoo rushes to the fissure, only to be shocked when he discovers that the gate is gone. As he stands frozen in front of the spot where the gate once allowed multiplayer access, a child accidentally bumps into him and quickly apologizes for not being careful. However, the child is puzzled as to why Junwoo remains motionless. But who could explain to the child that Junwoo is rooted in place because the bump felt far too real? For the first time, our boy begins to question if Over the Fantasy is even a game anymore. Junwoo tries to rationalize, thinking the game's sensors might be malfunctioning due to an error. Determined to hold the developers accountable, he resolves to sue them once he escapes this bizarre situation. However, 3 days pass, and our boy is still unable to log out of the game. As reality sinks in, Junwoo comes to believe that the game has somehow become his new reality. To make matters worse, his bad luck has left him stuck in this world with a mere level 10 storage character. At the training ground, the instructor is drilling soldiers, urging them to swing their swords with all their spirit. He emphasizes that without strength and determination, they won't be able to protect the village. Meanwhile, our boy, observing the training from the sidelines, has finally come to terms with the harsh reality. He has been transmigrated into the game. Despite once having multiple max-level characters, our boy now finds himself trapped as the level 10 storage character, Dio. Junwoo can't help but weep over his sorry fate, though he takes a small consolation in not being strapped for money. Still, he questions whether that even counts as a relief when he's stuck inside the game. The instructor soon notices Junwoo and asks what he's doing at the training grounds. Recognizing him as Dio, the instructor listens as Junwoo explains that he's merely observing. Enthused by his presence, the instructor invites our boy to join the training. However, Junwoo politely declines, convinced that he wouldn't be able to keep up with the rigorous drills given his low level and lack of a class. Junwoo suddenly recalls something and is startled by the soldiers' unexpected training sessions. Curious, he asks the instructor for the reason behind them. The instructor explains that the training is in preparation for the monster waves. Despite Avera Village being a peaceful NPC stronghold, it periodically comes under attack by these waves. Since players can join forces with NPCs during these battles, it's both safer and more efficient for leveling up compared to fighting alone. A system intentionally designed by the developers as a player-nurturing feature. However, for our boy, Avera Village is nothing short of a nightmare. As a level 10 character stuck in a level 100 village, Junwoo knows he's in serious trouble. Realizing there's no time to lament his terrible luck, he steels himself for the challenges ahead. The grim thought that he might not wake up back on Earth if he dies in the game spurs him into action. Determined to survive by any means, our boy decides to rummage through his warehouse. He hopes that finding a way to select a class might give him a fighting chance. Junwoo discovers that he has access to the Assassin class, which specializes in eliminating enemies with sharp, lethal attacks in a single strike, as well as the Martial Artist class, which focuses on mastering a variety of martial arts. However, each martial art comes with its own minimum requirements, and our boy's current stats fall short. While contemplating his promotion options, Junwoo notices a faint purple light emanating from another promotion book in his possession. He's startled by this glow, as he thought only Stage 2 promotion books could emit such light. Our boy assumes he won't be able to use the book, believing it to be a Stage 2 promotion, which advances a player to a suitable Stage 2 class based on their current class and growth state. To his astonishment, Junwoo realizes he actually meets the requirements to use this promotion book. This unexpected revelation leaves him baffled, as he's never encountered anything like it before. It makes him wonder if this might be a hidden feature of Over the Fantasy that he hadn't discovered until now. The reason lies in the unparalleled realism of Over the Fantasy, which is more detailed and immersive than any other virtual reality game. The developers crafted it so meticulously that there isn't a single imperfection. No one has ever found bugs or exploits. Additionally, the game provides minimal information to players, requiring them to uncover hidden content on their own to fully enjoy the experience. While some reviews criticize this approach as inconvenient for users, Junwoo found it utterly charming. Because of this emphasis on hidden content, our boy is convinced that the promotion book is a hidden piece, especially since he's never heard of such unique promotion requirements. Junwoo's gamer instincts ignite, his blood boiling with excitement at the thought of discovering more secrets within Over the Fantasy. Despite his dire situation, where survival is his top priority, this discovery reignites his passion for the game. After retrieving the special Stage 2 promotion book from his warehouse, Junwoo thanks Tony and hurries toward the mercenary guild in Avera village. However, he's stopped at the entrance by a mercenary, who tells him to wait in line like everyone else. The mercenary casts a skeptical glance at our boy's shabby outfit, clearly unimpressed. The mercenary, sensing the unmistakable noob aura about Junwoo, mocks him, suggesting he should leave because he clearly won't be able to afford anything at the guild. Ignoring the mercenary's comments, Junwoo casually drops a worn-out A-rank mercenary medallion, a symbol of one's status as a mercenary who has transcended the level of a veteran and entered the realm of experts. The entire guild is stunned, and the mercenary who had taunted Junwoo begins to reconsider. The shock stems from the rarity of such a medallion. Less than 0.1% of the top mercenaries possess one, and it was something Junwoo had retrieved from his warehouse. Our boy had decided to use the medallion to enter the guild, assuming the identity of an A-rank mercenary. To conceal his true identity as Dio, he covered his head with a hood enchanted with a disguise spell. The final step in his plan is to bluff his way through every situation that arises. To solidify his cover, Junwoo also decides to reveal an Imperial Medal of Honor, an item that essentially acts as a free pass for anything. Although displaying such an item in public could jeopardize his personal security, Junwoo shows the Imperial Medal of Honor and then asks the lady at the counter if he is eligible to meet the master of the guild. He wonders if his bluff has worked and whether the guild members might demand him to prove the authenticity of the two items he presented. As Junwoo contemplates this, the regional manager of the Avera Mercenary Guild, Cotton, greets him and requests that he explain the details upstairs. Junwoo, determined not to show any weakness, responds by asserting that he wishes to meet with the guildmaster. However, Cotton apologizes, explaining that the guildmaster is currently absent. Cotton bows lightly and offers to listen to Junwoo's request in the guildmaster's absence, provided Junwoo agrees to it. Junwoo agrees to Cotton's proposal, realizing that the only remaining step in his plan is a proper negotiation. Cotton learns that Junwoo's request involves going to the Forgotten Temple and that he has no other conditions. Coincidentally, Cotton does have a request related to the Forgotten Temple, but he is puzzled as to why an A-rank mercenary would go out of his way to take it. Cotton informs Junwoo that the request involves guarding a priestess, but mercenaries have already been assigned to it. This, however, is exactly what Junwoo wants. He tells Cotton that he is fine with that, as he has no need for a reward. A comfortable trip to the temple is enough for him. Cotton is baffled and asks if Junwoo intends to join the request and be treated as someone who needs protection. Junwoo responds that it's not like that, as he wouldn't stand idly by if something dangerous happened. Junwoo reasons that it might be difficult for Cotton to reject this offer, considering that not only would there be no need for additional rewards, but adding extra fighting power would reduce the risks from the guild's perspective. Cotton, pleased with Junwoo's proposal, agrees to grant him the request. Cotton informs Junwoo that he will notify the mercenaries about the changes. He asks Junwoo to confirm the paperwork, which Junwoo does. After reviewing the contents, he signs it, and the system notifies him that a quest will soon be generated. Cotton thanks Junwoo for signing the contract and assures him that the priestess in charge of the request will be thrilled to hear that an A-rank mercenary is joining the quest. He tells Junwoo to meet the mercenaries and the priestess at the north exit tomorrow morning, after he rests for the night. Junwoo decides to prepare hastily for the quest, as it would be troublesome if anyone in the guild discovered his true identity. The morning arrives, and the mercenaries are discussing the A-rank mercenary who will be joining them, wondering what an A-rank is doing in such a remote area. One of them spots Junwoo approaching and instructs the others to control their tongues. One of the mercenaries, introducing himself as Raymond, greets Junwoo. Instead of introducing himself as Dio, Junwoo decides to introduce himself as Monty. Junwoo decided to use a fake name to further conceal his identity, but he did not expect there to be only 4 guards on the quest. He wondered if Cotton had intentionally reduced the number of guards upon realizing that an A-rank mercenary would be joining, successfully fooling Junwoo in the process. Raymond questions whether they are still waiting for the requester of the quest. Meanwhile, Clara, the priestess of the Luna Temple, arrives and asks if they are the mercenaries who will be escorting her to the temple. Clara apologizes for being late and informs them that she will be leading the dispatch mission to the Forgotten Temple. The mercenaries introduce themselves to Clara, while Junwoo notices that she has clearly been through quite a bit to get here, as her priestess robes are messy and disheveled. Clara looks at Junwoo, making him wonder if she suspects something is amiss. However, he thinks that she might simply be staring out of curiosity, as A-rank mercenaries are rare. Now that the requester of the quest has arrived, Raymond tells everyone to stop chatting and head out for the dispatch quest, while Junwoo, on the other hand, receives a system message informing him that he has entered a field with a recommended level much higher than his own. Raymond points to a location on the map and informs the others that they will be heading to Camp 2. One of the other mercenaries remarks that, while it will be a slightly longer route, it will be safer and involve no danger. However, Junwoo objects to taking the longer path and instead suggests they should take the shortest route, which can be reached by using the hidden cave near Camp 3. Junwoo insists that they would arrive at the temple much sooner if they use this shortcut. Raymond, however, asserts that he knows the area much better than Junwoo and warns that the path to Camp 3 is not entirely safe. Junwoo responds that he could find the path with his eyes closed and argues that if they pass the cave and cut through Dunville Forest, they will reach the temple much faster. Raymond is astonished by the idea of trekking through Dunville Forest and asks Junwoo if he is aware of the monsters that appear there. However, they remain unaware that Junwoo is suggesting this path not because he enjoys it, but because he is concerned that if they take the longer route, his identity as a classless level 10 will be revealed. Junwoo thinks he should remain cautious and push forward instead of appearing weak. He tells the mercenaries that he is heading toward Camp 3, and if they consider the priestess's low stamina, taking the shortest and fastest route would be better for everyone. Junwoo then acts furiously and tells them that his time is valuable, and he didn't take this quest just to leisurely mess around. He imagines how annoyed the mercenaries must be, thinking he's acting like a jerk, even though he was the one who suddenly forced himself into the request. Junwoo then asks Clara for her opinion, to which she replies that they should listen to him. Clara agrees with Junwoo's suggestion because she also prefers reaching the Lost Temple faster. She further suggests that they can take the path Raymond recommended on their way back. Although Raymond is clearly annoyed, he reluctantly goes along with Clara's suggestion, on the condition that Junwoo handles things if they start to get risky. Junwoo agrees and reassures them that there's no need to stress, thinking that getting the priestess on his side was a good move. Raymond instructs everyone to sleep quickly, as they have an intense march ahead of them the next day. The morning arrives, and they begin their journey. Junwoo finds his entire body stiff and realizes that if this were still a game, simply sleeping through the night would be enough to relieve the exhaustion. However, now that this is reality, he feels as though he might die from the fatigue. Raymond asks Junwoo if there's a cave along the road they're traveling. Junwoo responds that there is a cave on the trail and warns Raymond to be careful because if he strays from the path, he could unknowingly enter werewolf territory. Junwoo notices that Raymond is straying from the route, despite having just warned him. He asks Raymond where he's going, to which Raymond replies that he doesn't need anyone's permission to answer nature's call. Junwoo observes Raymond's rude behavior, which makes him wonder if Raymond is still upset about what happened yesterday. Taking advantage of the situation, Junwoo decides to use this opportunity to humble the mercenaries. He suggests to Clara that they should take a break right there. As they are resting and waiting for Raymond, they suddenly hear a loud scream from the forest. They rush to find that Raymond is being chased by a werewolf. The system notifies Junwoo that Raymond has been inflicted with the abnormal status of bleeding. Junwoo finds this amusing, as he had already warned Raymond to be extra careful. The other mercenaries in the party urge Junwoo to help instead of just watching, but he refuses. He had already warned Raymond about the dangers in this area of the forest, and since Raymond ignored his advice and brought it upon himself, Junwoo believes he is capable of getting out of the situation on his own. Both of Raymond's companions become frustrated with Junwoo, questioning how a mercenary can act that way, telling him that he's all bark and no bite. Junwoo chooses not to engage with their comments and instead instructs the priestess to stay close to him. He thinks this is a good opportunity to observe the skills of the three mercenaries. Junwoo is impressed by their abilities, noting how they handle the werewolf despite being only D-rank mercenaries. However, he realizes that it's not just their level 100 status that allows them to deal significant damage, but also their numerical advantage. Raymond is attacked by two werewolves, and one of them is soon near critical condition. Seeing this, Junwoo draws his weapon, thinking it's time to show them that he is, indeed, an A-rank mercenary. Even if the title is only in name, Junwoo believes that one good demonstration would be enough to prove himself. He tells Clara that he is going to join them, because although the mercenaries have the ability to handle one or two werewolves, Junwoo thinks it would be difficult for them to finish them off without injury, especially if they are unaware of a certain skill that werewolves possess. Junwoo instructs them to stand aside, which surprises Raymond and his comrade since he only decided to help once the werewolves were almost finished off. Raymond comments that A-rank mercenaries aren't as impressive as they're made out to be. However, Junwoo finds this amusing, as Raymond's words seem to be a reflection of his own ignorance. Raymond doesn't understand Junwoo's point, but his body soon comprehends when the werewolf enters its berserk state, something Raymond had never encountered before. The berserk werewolf then attacks Raymond's comrade, and despite his best efforts to block the attack with his shield, the shield is unable to withstand the force of the blow and shatters into pieces. Completely bamboozling Raymond's comrade, Junwoo seizes the opportunity to strike the berserk werewolf in the head with his mace, causing the creature to collapse to the ground. To Raymond and his comrades, Junwoo's attack might appear as if he took down the werewolf in a single blow, but the truth is far different. The reason Junwoo was able to defeat the werewolf in one strike lies in a strategic move that exploited the monster's nature. Beast-type monsters enter a berserk state just before death, which increases their physical abilities and allows them to negate a portion of incoming damage. To counter this, Junwoo had prepared a purifying herb, which, when applied to a weapon, can render the berserk state ineffective. With this tactic in hand, the rest was easy for Junwoo, who has memorized the traits and behavioral patterns of every monster in the game. This knowledge nullifies the impact of a 100-level difference. Junwoo recalls that the first attack of the werewolf would be a claw strike from right to left. While the second attack comes from the opposite direction, Junwoo skillfully dodges, creating a distance between himself and the werewolf. He then charges forward, expertly evading the werewolf's hands and positioning himself near a wall or tree. This forces the werewolf to accidentally bump its head into the obstacle. Junwoo recalls that the groggy state following a head strike lasts for almost 5 seconds, and he uses this opportunity to deliver a series of blows until the werewolf is defeated. The reason Junwoo was able to pull off this display of skill is due to the fact that werewolves die once their berserk state ends. Had he engaged the werewolf in its normal state, however, he would have been unable to inflict any significant damage. Afterward, Junwoo returns to his party and thanks Clara for healing the injured mercenaries. Clara replies that it is her duty as a priestess. Junwoo then asks Raymond about his condition and apologizes for suggesting the dangerous route. Raymond, however, admits his own fault, acknowledging that he failed to heed Junwoo's earlier warnings. Raymond also praises Junwoo for his skills, which is beneficial for Junwoo, as it allows him to gain the trust, respect, and gratitude of the three mercenaries. Night falls, and they rest comfortably in the cave they found thanks to Junwoo, with everyone glad that they followed his suggestion. However, Junwoo downplays his contribution, claiming that anyone could have served as a guide. Raymond, sensing Junwoo's humility, expresses a desire to hear about his adventures over a drink once their task is complete. His comrade, on the other hand, is eager to know how Junwoo earned the Imperial Medal of Honor. Junwoo, however, is reluctant to engage in such discussions as he doesn't wish to grow closer to them. He tells them it's too early to celebrate the completion of their quest. He then informs them that they will be spending the night in the cave since it offers safety from the monsters, and everyone agrees. To determine the night watch duty schedule, Junwoo suggests they use rock, paper, scissors. Junwoo sits down, reflecting on what he has achieved so far. He feels that everything is progressing well, especially since he has gained the confidence of the mercenaries. However, the one thing that bothers him the most is the large-scale update of the game. Despite having practically memorized the game from raising 7 max-level characters, his knowledge could become obsolete in an instant due to the update. As a result, he decides to always act with the worst-case scenario in mind. After exiting the cave, they encounter a group of enormous ints blocking their path. However, Junwoo effortlessly defeats them, leaving Raymond and his comrades amazed as they watch the ints helplessly fall. The reason Junwoo was able to handle this so easily is that he coated his weapon with a plant disease potion created by his max-level alchemist character. However, all the experience points Junwoo is earning are going to waste because he hasn't taken a class promotion, meaning he cannot apply the experience points. Junwoo notices that, despite the potion, some of the ints are still attacking. He advises Raymond's comrade, Rika, that it's better to parry an int's vine rather than block it with a shield. Junwoo also directs Raymond to attack the enemies as much as possible when they are in a normal state. Raymond immediately follows this advice and finds it effective, thanking Junwoo for his guidance. Both Raymond and Rika begin to expect more from Junwoo, while Junwoo himself grows frustrated as he continues to offer advice instinctively. Junwoo begins searching for a shortcut to their destination and discovers a narrow hole, which surprises the other party members. Rika asks Junwoo if they plan to enter through this narrow hole, to which Junwoo responds that it is a shortcut to the temple. Raymond tells Rika that he will get stuck in the hole, to which Rika retorts that Junwoo had instructed him to lose some weight. Junwoo advises Clara to be careful and warns her not to be surprised, as they will be falling from here. Before Clara can process what Junwoo is saying, they both fall, quickly reaching the temple. Clara is amazed upon observing the temple and its murals, as she never imagined such a place could exist. The rest of the party members soon join them. Junwoo recalls that the murals Clara was examining contained clues about the main story, depicting the battle between Luna, the moon goddess, and the evil god, who worshipped the demon god and is considered the source of chaos. Raymond's eyes fall on one of the murals, which he mistakes for an execution. Rika calls him foolish and corrects him, explaining that it depicts a scene of knighthood, as the figure in the yellow armor is a knight. Junwoo is surprised when he hears this and pushes Raymond aside to get a better look at the mural, which he finds to be different from what he remembered. Junwoo suddenly realizes that the knight depicted in the mural is the same one he saw in the trailer a few days ago, back in his world. Clara comments that it is a prophetic writing, something she has seen often in the temple, but it is her first time encountering one in a tunnel like this. Junwoo remembers that Clara is also a priestess, so he asks if she can tell him what the mural says. Clara replies that it is written in an ancient sacred language no longer in use, but she still attempts to translate it. After some effort, Clara translates the text, telling Junwoo that it speaks of reaching the end of the world. Junwoo realizes that it resembles the first line of the song from the trailer. This realization convinces Junwoo that the temple they are heading to will involve an event he has never experienced before. Although it scares him, he knows he must continue, as it is the only way for him to survive in this fantasy world. Junwoo decides to press on and tells the party to begin walking toward the temple. The party members are once again surprised as they observe how the path leads to the temple. Meanwhile, Junwoo's eyes land on the armored knight he saw in the trailer and the mural. Clara admires the statue, finding it lovely, while Junwoo feels that it might come to life at any moment. However, Clara reassures him, saying there is no need to worry, as the Order has already inspected the statues and ensured they pose no risk. Junwoo remains skeptical, believing that the situation is not so simple. He thinks that an NPC appearing here is completely different from a player coming to the temple. Junwoo realizes that if the statue they just saw is indeed the guardian of the temple, Their party is far from strong enough to fight it and would be wiped out in an instant. Clara notices an altar and approaches it, which triggers the completion of the quest where they had to escort the priestess. Clara thanks everyone for safely escorting her, while Junwoo, on the other hand, decides to focus on his promotion now that the quest has been completed. However, Junwoo is surprised when the Book of Promotion automatically notifies him that he has satisfied the Ancient Legacy's hidden condition, causing the golden statue they had seen earlier to move. Clara and the other party members are bewildered by what is happening, as they witness the golden statue of the knight standing before them, which, according to Clara, should not have moved. Raymond notices a purple light emanating from the statue, and soon after, the gold coating begins to crumble, revealing a cursed holy knight that has transcended death. Junwoo realizes that this is not a guardian, but a being against which even level 300 players struggle. He remarks that this is not a monster that should be appearing in a level 100 area. Junwoo's no-life gamer instincts tell him that the appearance of a level 300-plus Death Knight in a level 100 area signifies that defeating the knight is not the goal. In Over the Fantasy, hidden quests often come with hidden backstories, meaning there must be another way to clear this event. The Book of Promotion that Junwoo is carrying indicates that a forced quest is now starting, as he has fulfilled the conditions to trigger the hidden quest. The system also notifies him that the objective of the quest is to obtain the Sword of the Death Knight. Junwoo feels relieved upon discovering that the quest's objective is not to defeat the Death Knight, as this means he only needs to reach a certain point to complete the quest. He recalls a post he read on the Over the Fantasy forum, which outlined instructions for easily defeating the Death Knight. To do so, one must include at least one priest NPC in the party, have them cast a shield on the Death Knight, and then wait for the Death Knight to break the shield in a fit of rage. This will allow the player to completely skip Phase 1. As Junwoo recalls the contents of the post, the Death Knight, on the other hand, spreads fire around them, enraged by their intrusion onto sacred ground. Clara, terrified by the scene, tells Junwoo that this is dangerous, but Junwoo calmly instructs her to prepare the Holy Shield. He realizes that this event is a trigger for his class change, leading him to conclude that the trigger conditions for this event involve being classless and under level 10. Clara, still overcome with fear, warns Junwoo not to fight, insisting that he stands no chance against the Death Knight. However, Junwoo reprimands her, telling her that escape is not an option. Instead of doing nothing, Clara should hurry and cast the shield on the Death Knight before it kills them all. Though Clara's hands tremble with fear, she steels herself and begins praying for the protection of the holy moonlight to keep them safe. Struggling to keep her wand steady, Junwoo grabs it and urges her to cast the holy shield. Clara doesn't hesitate for a second and casts the holy shield on the Death Knight, trapping him within it. She is amazed by this, as she didn't know the shield could be used as a prison for the Death Knight, leaving her to wonder about Junwoo's true identity. Junwoo tells Clara that it's still too early to relax. However, he is pleased to see from the Death Knight's actions that he has successfully skipped Phase 1, just as he had planned. Now, he waits for the second phase. The Death Knight pulls two swords from thin air and places them on the ground beside Junwoo, positioned opposite each other. Clara, seeing this, warns Junwoo that it's dangerous and that he should stop. Junwoo stands silently for a moment before asking the Death Knight if he doesn't recognize who he is. At that moment, he receives a system message confirming that the conditions have been met, causing a conversation zone to form around the Death Knight and himself. Junwoo knows that no matter the game, a Death Knight is never just a random mob, and this truth holds in Over the Fantasy as well. Junwoo remembers that one can pause the second phase for discussion by telling a story related to the situation. This realization makes him recall that all the clues for the hidden quest were revealed in the trailer video, where Dark, the Holy Knight wearing golden armor, was seen waiting for the messenger to bring back reinforcements. The messenger had promised to return after completing the mission, but in the end, the messenger never returned, and Dark became a Death Knight, while the messenger transformed into a wandering spirit. This spirit is associated with the Imperial Medal of Honor, which one can obtain by capturing the wandering ghost. Junwoo sees that everything is coming together. He addresses the Death Knight as Dark, telling him that he has returned after completing the mission. Junwoo then presents his Imperial Medal of Honor to the Death Knight, causing Dark to bow in acknowledgement and praise Junwoo for his success. Junwoo realizes that he has successfully cleared Phase 2 of the Death Knight event, as Dark has recognized him as an ally. The system informs Junwoo that he has discovered that the Death Knight is the first Holy Knight, Adelia Dark, of the ancient Holy Empire. Junwoo is surprised by the mention of the ancient Holy Empire, while the Death Knight tells him that a long time has passed since they were defeated and fell from the grace of the gods. Dark further adds that they waited for eternity, and in the process, many of their comrades, such as Langbolt, Font, and Christ, perished. Junwoo notices that he was unable to hear one of the names, which leads him to believe that the system deliberately obscured it. He wonders if his failure to hear the name is due to not meeting all the requirements. With that thought, Junwoo begins to recall any information he might have overlooked or forgotten unintentionally. As Junwoo is reflecting on what he might have missed, Dark tells him that he has rekindled her forgotten hope. In gratitude, Dark bestows knighthood upon him, which Junwoo thinks is similar to the honor ceremony he saw in the mural. Suddenly, Junwoo remembers that despite knowing all the clues from the trailer, he overlooked the lyrics of the trailer song. This oversight might mean that Dark was not only waiting for reinforcements, but also longing for her lost loved one. Junwoo is surprised when he realizes that Dark might be waiting and longing for someone. He begins to ponder this, wondering if the mere activation of this event means that he has found a clue related to the person Dark is waiting for. Suddenly, Junwoo realizes that it might be connected to the A-rank mercenary medallion. He remembers receiving the medallion at the Tardo Temple, which is linked to the ancient Holy Empire, and this reassures him that the medallion may have gained a new purpose as the update progressed. Our boy decides to show the A-rank mercenary medallion to Dark, asking her if she had been waiting for it, even after she was cursed and became a Death Knight. Dark begins to tremble violently, causing her sword to drop to the ground. Meanwhile, Junwoo receives a system message stating that the waiting status of Adelia has been satisfied, granting her the right to walk the path of truth. The dark coating of the Death Knight starts to peel away, revealing her true form. Dark asks Junwoo if she is still loved by the man she once knew, a question Junwoo cannot answer. She tells him that he has saved her from a place between light and darkness, and that his soul is causing her to tremble. Junwoo informs Dark that he is not the one she had been waiting for all this time. Rather, he is merely a messenger who brought her keepsake. Dark continues to tremble as she grabs the A-rank mercenary medallion, telling Junwoo that she knows he is not her lover. She earnestly prays to God, asking to receive her lover and her truth in heaven. Tears begin to fall from her face as the Death Knight's coating fully dissolves, and she vanishes, returning to her original form. Junwoo receives a system message informing him that he has completed the story of the fallen Holy Knight. In reward, he receives the ancient Dead Sword of Vengeance, along with the trait Life Energy, which causes his user status to be reconfigured. Something strange begins to happen to Junwoo. Junwoo experiences intense pain, causing him to collapse to the ground. The scene shifts to his rented room, where Junwoo wakes up, concluding that everything he experienced was just a vivid dream. There's no way a game could become a reality. However, he feels a strange sense of unease after dealing with the monsters and the Death Knight, especially when he recalls becoming a Death Knight himself, which surprises him. As Junwoo reflects on this, he hears someone calling his fictitious name, Monty. He suddenly realizes that waking up in the rented room was actually part of the dream. As he looks around, he sees Clara standing in front of the tent, calling for him. Clara informs the others that Junwoo has woken up, prompting the party members to rush into his tent. They express how worried they were about his safety, with Raymond reassuring him that he always believed Junwoo was capable of defeating all the monsters on his own. Junwoo, however, feels frustrated by their insincere concern, as he clearly remembers how all three mercenaries fled the moment the Death Knight appeared. Junwoo reassures the party that he's fine and requests to rest alone for a while. After everyone leaves his tent, Junwoo begins examining the rewards he received from his recent quest completion. Among them, he notices the ancient Dead Sword of Vengeance, which not only has a level limit of 350, but also displays a few question marks under special restrictions. This detail strikes him as odd, as he has never encountered anything like it before. Junwoo also realizes that the changes brought by the recent update are far more extensive than he anticipated. The only aspect he's managed to uncover so far is the apparent focal point of the update, the ancient Holy Empire. Frustration builds within him as he grapples with the loss of his edge as a dedicated, no-life gamer. The unpredictability of the new system leaves him uneasy, so he resolves to proceed with greater caution, knowing his survival depends on it. As Junwoo steps out of the tent, Clara immediately approaches him, asking about his condition. Junwoo assures her that he's doing fine and encourages her to focus on completing the remainder of her mission with the mercenaries. Since Junwoo has something important to do at the altar, he tells Clara and the others to go ahead while he stays behind. The scene shifts to the altar, where Junwoo prepares to proceed with his long-awaited class promotion. He feels there's no reason to hesitate anymore. As the system initiates the promotion, Junwoo senses the energy channeled into him by the Death Knight, along with the sword she wielded. Key moments from the quest replay before his eyes, and with that, Junwoo's class promotion is completed. He is now promoted to Forgotten Swordsman, Growth Type, an ordinary ranked class. Additionally, Junwoo notices that he is receiving all the experience points from the monsters he defeated along the way, further enhancing his progress. However, Junwoo is puzzled and slightly disappointed upon seeing that his new class is labeled as Ordinary. He wonders if he had been expecting too much from the promotion. As he continues to contemplate the significance of the Growth Type designation in his class title, Clara approaches, informing him that they are heading back to the village now that her mission is complete. Clara notices that Junwoo remains motionless even after hearing the news about the mission's completion. Concerned, she asks if something is wrong, to which Junwoo replies with a calm smile that everything is perfect. As the group enters Avera village, Raymond enthusiastically tells Junwoo that he feels much stronger than before, attributing it to Junwoo's special training, despite it being incredibly challenging. What Raymond doesn't realize, however, is that Junwoo had cleverly used him to leech experience points. Raymond suggests they head to the Mercenary Guild to report their success and claim their reward, but Junwoo declines, stating he hadn't requested a reward in the first place. Clara interjects, explaining that even though Junwoo didn't ask for one, the Church of Luna is likely to grant him a reward anyway due to the special circumstances of the mission. Raymond then urges Junwoo to join them for a drink, insisting that he shouldn't act so distant. Junwoo notices that Raymond's tone has shifted to something more friendly, signaling that he has managed to form a good rapport with the mercenaries. However, Junwoo's mind is already focused elsewhere. There's something important he needs to take care of first. Junwoo tells the group that they should postpone their plans for drinks, explaining that he is busy for the time being. Internally, he reasons that it's better to keep the mercenary group at arm's length, as there's always a risk his true identity might be exposed. Leaving the disappointed mercenaries behind, Junwoo retreats to his room, relieved to finally remove his disguise hood. With a deep breath, he begins preparations for the impending monster wave, the very reason he took the risky path of obtaining his promotion in the first place. Junwoo opens his status window to review his current progress and notices that his new class is entirely unfamiliar to him. This leads him to conclude that it might be tied to the Death Knight, Adelia Dark, as the red energy he received from her was key to his promotion. Thanks to the accumulated experience he gained from defeating monsters, Junwoo has already reached level 35 in an impressively short amount of time. Our boy reflects on his situation, reminding himself to stay calm. This isn't the first time he's raised a character without fully understanding its intricacies. After all of his max-level characters followed a similar uncertain path. The only difference now is that it's real. Instead of dwelling on the unknown, Junwoo resolves to focus on leveling up during the upcoming monster wave. Before that, however, Junwoo decides to inspect the skills he earned through his promotion. One skill, Pledge of Liberation, immediately catches his attention. The ability consumes the caster's vitality to neutralize abnormal status effects on targets, but it also causes the target to become dependent on the caster. Moreover, 10% of the caster's stats are lost with each contract. Our boy finds this Pledge of Liberation quite risky, questioning whether losing stats can truly be considered a great skill. He reasons that it likely wouldn't work on the strongest beings, and using it on weaker opponents might be equally futile. Junwoo then examines the other skill, Slash, which he initially finds underwhelming. In fact, he considers calling it a skill to be a bit of a stretch. However, when he activates the skill, a sudden surge of red energy surrounds him. The system promptly informs our boy that the skill adapts and evolves depending on the state of the player. Specifically, Slash merges and transforms when the energy of the Forgotten Swordsman interacts with the Seal of Anger. Junwoo immediately notices the change in his Slash skill. It has grown significantly stronger. Moreover, he begins to grasp the essence of his growth type class. By inspecting the skill's details, he discovers that it has evolution conditions, meaning the skill will change and grow based on the power he received from the Death Knight, Adelia Dark. To further evolve the skill, Junwoo realizes that to evolve his skill further, he must reach 100% proficiency with it and obtain the Essence of Fire, which he believes is stored in a warehouse located in another city. The Essence of Fire has a chance of dropping from high-ranking fire monsters, so Junwoo decides to focus on leveling up to increase the skill's proficiency. He aims to reach at least level 50 before the impending monster wave at Avera Village. The scene shifts to the habitat of armored turtles, where our boy is steadily defeating level 80 armored turtles one by one. The slow movement speed of the turtles, caused by their massive size, makes it relatively easy for Junwoo to exploit their weak points and overcome the level difference. Junwoo acknowledges that he could kill the turtles faster if he had a better weapon, but most of the powerful weapons in his inventory are still locked due to level restrictions. Despite this limitation, our boy doesn't mind engaging in repetitive grinding, something most players would avoid in a game like this. After diligently hunting armored turtles for an extended period, Junwoo finally achieves his goal, reaching level 50. Having reached level 50, Junwoo knows he just needs to retrieve the necessary item from his warehouse to finalize his preparations, as there's still some time left before the monster wave arrives. The scene shifts to Avera, where the captain, visibly worried about the overwhelming number of incoming monsters, is rallying his soldiers. He orders the archers to draw their bows and loose their arrows as soon as the monsters enter range. Hundreds of arrows soar through the air, piercing and scattering the advancing wave of monsters with devastating force. The captain then commands the shield-bearers to intercept the monsters that survive the initial assault, instructing them to hold their positions firmly after the third line scatters to ensure no monsters breach the village defenses. However, some monsters manage to slip past the shield wall, prompting the captain to order the spearmen to tighten their formation. Before the situation spirals further out of control, Junwoo joins the fray. Our boy charges onto the battlefield, slicing through the monsters that manage to breach the soldiers' defenses with precision and ferocity, turning the tide in Avera's favor. The captain and the soldiers are relieved and overjoyed by the arrival of the A-rank mercenary Monty. The captain expresses his gratitude to Junwoo for joining the battle. However, as he observes him closely, he feels a sense of familiarity. This makes Junwoo realize that the captain is the same NPC he encountered when he was playing as Dio. The captain cautiously asks Junwoo if they've met before, to which Junwoo replies calmly that the captain must be mistaken, as this is their first encounter. Despite his lingering doubt, the captain thanks Junwoo again for his assistance, noting how reassuring it is to have the support of an A-rank mercenary. He also informs Junwoo that the elite soldiers of Avera Village will be assisting him in the fight. Junwoo assures them that they can count on him, though inwardly, he is fully aware of the daunting reality. The monsters here are double his level. Despite the significant challenge, Junwoo has already devised a solution for landing critical hits on his enemies. Thanks to a stroke of luck, or his meticulous preparation, our boy managed to retrieve the Lens of Certainty, a skill that reveals the vitality of monsters below the seed grade. He obtained this skill from the stockpile of items collecting dust in his warehouse. Armed with the ability to gauge his opponent's remaining vitality, Junwoo strategizes to focus on monsters that can be defeated with a single decisive strike. Junwoo continues to effortlessly take down the monsters with ease, impressing the elite soldiers fighting beside him. His swift and precise movements boost their morale as they witness Monty fearlessly taking down monsters. However, they do not realize that their revered A-rank mercenary is strategically targeting only the monsters with very low health. Junwoo understands that to gain experience, he must personally defeat the enemies, as this event prevents him from collaborating with NPCs, further confirming his status as a true A-rank mercenary. Junwoo then notices a werewolf ahead. Without hesitation, he rushes toward it, determined to eliminate the threat. He successfully defeats the werewolf just in time, saving the soldier who had been fighting it. The soldier thanks Junwoo for saving him, but before he can finish his sentence, Junwoo quickly grabs and tosses him aside to deal with the monster that was lurking behind him. Finding the status window distracting, Junwoo decides to turn it off, allowing him to focus entirely on the monsters. Once the status window is disabled, Junwoo spots 5 insect-type monsters, each with less than 10% health, an ideal opportunity. Determined to make the most of this moment, he orders the soldiers to retreat to avoid interfering with his targets. Junwoo casually deals shallow damage to all 5 monsters, surprising the soldiers. They warn him of the potential counterattack due to the weak strikes, but Junwoo ignores their warnings and detonates the insects in front of everyone, causing another wave of shock. The soldiers, stunned by his use of magic, are finally convinced that the rumors about Junwoo holding an Imperial Medal of Honor are true. The reason Junwoo was able to pull off that explosion was due to the skill mark, which he acquired after reaching 100 proficiency. This skill allows him to leave marks on targets corresponding to his attacks, which can later be linked with slash for additional effects, causing the most recent marks to explode when the skill is used. Junwoo was amazed to discover that he could make 5 targets grazed by his sword explode, but he found it somewhat unfortunate, as explosion-type skills have the drawback of also affecting the caster. After some consideration, Junwoo equips fire resistance gear he found in his warehouse, ensuring he remains fully protected from the fire damage caused by the explosions. He proceeds to blast insect after insect as he moves through the battlefield, since insect-type monsters are particularly weak to fire and explosions. As Junwoo continues his advance, he hears a voice from behind, mentioning a giant monster in the central square. Junwoo looks back and discovers that it is a named monster. The horned bear has vastly higher levels than the area's average, and the best strategy for the player is typically to leave named monsters to the soldiers and focus on hiding. However, the soldiers clear the way for Junwoo, deciding to leave the task to him. While Junwoo did not ask for such preferential treatment, he doesn't mind, as he had already planned to take the creature down. Junwoo begins dealing shallow damage to the horned bear while dodging its attacks. To an observer, it may seem like the horned bear is attacking randomly, but in reality, it follows a set attack pattern. Junwoo is able to effectively dodge all of the horned bear's strikes because he has invested heavily in agility. The explosion skill he used earlier would not be effective on the horned bear due to its thick hide. To efficiently deal damage, Junwoo decides to run into the crowd of monsters, with the horned bear chasing after him, unaware that it is slowly being worn down by the other monsters. He then quickly creates some distance between himself and the horned bear, which is still chasing him, and throws a chemical at it. The horned bear is taken by surprise, unaware of the reason for Junwoo's actions. Seizing the opportunity, Junwoo uses the mark skill on the horned bear while it is distracted, causing it to be caught in the explosion's fire. Our boy successfully defeats the monstrous bear, spreading joy and hope across the battlefield. Meanwhile, he prepares to confront the remaining monsters, wielding explosions as his weapon of choice. Because, after all, explosions are an art. The scene transitions to Junwoo, who is traveling in a horse-drawn carriage, lying beside blocks of hay. As a guard approaches to inspect the carriage, he is astonished to find the renowned monster hunter Mani right before his eyes. The guard excitedly tells Junwoo that he has heard of his remarkable feats in Avera village and inquires if he is headed toward Libernas City. Without waiting for a response, the guard expresses his pleasure at having worked with Junwoo and looks forward to crossing paths with him again. Junwoo politely greets the knight, refraining from boasting about his accomplishments, even as he reflects on how much more famous he has become than he ever anticipated. Just yesterday, Junwoo had been struggling to survive as a mere level 10 storage character. Now, at level 80, he marvels at the transformation, grateful for the life-changing ability mark he unlocked, which feels nothing short of a godsend. His current destination, Libernas City, holds a specific purpose, retrieving the essence of fire he had safely stored there. Moreover, from Libernas City, our boy plans to retrieve the items he will need upon reaching level 100. Junwoo tries to recall what else he should collect from Libernas City. After a brief moment of thought, he asks the carriage driver if there have been any recent rumors circulating around the Empire. The driver responds, mentioning that about 10 days ago, he heard reports of a group of bandits starting an uprising in the western regions. This unrest has led the Empire's third prince to begin drafting soldiers for a subjugation campaign. Junwoo recalls completing that quest on another character and how it allowed players to establish ties with Prion, the Freon Empire's third prince. The driver continues, sharing that many people have gone missing recently in Libernas City, creating significant challenges for the city's lord. Junwoo finds this information amusing, as it helps him piece together the timeline of events more clearly. He thanks the driver for the valuable insights. Unexpectedly, Junwoo requests to be dropped off at the side of the road. The driver, surprised, points out that Libernas City is still quite far away. However, Junwoo insists, as he has remembered the location of a hidden quest buried in the middle of the plains. Junwoo begins walking toward the location of the hidden quest, grumbling about how exhausting it is to constantly conceal his identity. His destination this time is the Slave Dealer's Cave, located in the nearby Tier mountain range. This group is notorious for being one of the most despicable groups in the fantasy realm. They are also the primary culprits behind the recent disappearances in Libernas City. However, Junwoo's motives are not driven by a sense of justice. His true objective is the agility elixir that can be obtained by defeating the group's boss. As he approaches the cave, Junwoo notices a bridge that serves as the only connection to the entrance. To ensure his identity remains hidden, he pulls his hood over his head before stepping onto the bridge. Two men stand guard outside the cave, casually chatting about the success of their latest auction. Junwoo, who overhears their conversation, acts swiftly. Before the guards can enjoy their moment of respite, he uses a rope to silently capture one of them, executing his move with precision and stealth. Junwoo uses the captured guard as leverage to quickly reach the cave. The other guard, stunned by the sudden attack, reacts in shock. As the remaining guard starts shouting to raise the alarm, Junwoo takes down the guard before he could summon help. Assessing the situation, Junwoo realizes he doesn't even need to use his skills against these guards, as they are only around level 50. His eyes then fall on a cage near the cave's entrance, where the group has imprisoned several beautiful white birds. Feeling a pang of sympathy, Junwoo frees the birds from their confinement and tells them to never allow themselves to be captured again. With that, he steps into the slave dealer's cave. The scene shifts to the boss of the slave dealer's group and his subordinate. The subordinate, curious about their recent dealings, asks why the usually stingy merchants paid them so handsomely this time. The boss dismisses the question, stating that he doesn't care about the reason, as all that matters to him is the money they stand to earn. The subordinate then voices concern about whether people from Libernas City might start searching for them, especially since they've been targeting the village lately. The boss, however, remains confident, replying that the greedy nobles wouldn't waste their own money searching these desolate plains just to find their hideout. As they chatted over their drinks, the boss of the slave dealers group suddenly noticed a barrel rolling into the room. Both he and his subordinate were shocked, with the subordinate becoming visibly angry, unable to tolerate such blatant disrespect toward his boss. Before they could process what was happening, Junwoo walked in. The remaining members of the group wasted no time, launching an attack to ensure Junwoo would not leave the cave alive. However, Junwoo acted swiftly, defeating them effortlessly without giving them a chance to fight back. With the group members taken care of, Junwoo turned his attention to the boss of the slave dealers group. Calmly, he informed the boss that all his subordinates had been dealt with. Our boy then suggested they wrap things up quickly, as he had no intention of wasting any more time. Fighting weak opponents like them, after all, was becoming quite troublesome for him. Junwoo strikes at the bandit's boss and injures him severely. The leader pleads with Junwoo, asking about his intentions and insisting that he was merely following orders. Although Junwoo knows that such vile individuals deserve to die, taking their lives never brings him any real sense of satisfaction. He coldly asks the group leader if he has ever shown mercy to those who begged for it. Without waiting for an answer, Junwoo takes down the group leader. Searching the room, Junwoo finds the keys needed to unlock the chest beside the leader's chair. Using them, he opens the chest and retrieves the coveted agility elixir, which increases his agility stat by 5 points. Without hesitation, our boy drinks the elixir, instantly feeling as though all the exhaustion from his recent battle has vanished, though he knows the elixir has no such effect. With his mission in the cave complete, Junwoo decides to continue his journey toward Libernas City. However, Just as he begins walking out of the cave, he hears a faint voice. Strangely, it seems to be coming from behind the wall. Junwoo is startled to hear a voice out of nowhere, as, according to him, there should not be anyone left here. The slave auction should already be over. However, our boy suddenly recalls a specific character and pushes against a stone in the cave wall. This action reveals a hidden door, leading to the area where the slave dealers group kept the humans they had captured. As Junwoo steps into the room, he immediately blocks his nose with his fingers, unable to tolerate the foul stench that fills the air. The room is overcrowded with people, all deprived of basic necessities and forced to live in horrendous conditions. Junwoo reflects that if this were his first time witnessing such a scene, it might have left a lasting scar on him. Thankfully, having already experienced this place in the game, he manages to keep his composure. He remembers there is another wooden door in the innermost corner of the room, which leads to the source of the voice he heard moments ago. Approaching the door, Junwoo discovers a chained figure and immediately recognizes her. It is Sepia, an extra character from the game who had been used as a human sacrifice in a black mage's ritual. Sepia's brother, Sigmund, who leads Libernas' secondary Knight Corps, is destined to awaken as the Knight of Judgment of the Church of Luna after Sepia's death. This event is a crucial incident tied to the main scenario. Many players had tried to save Sepia during the game, but none succeeded because she was cursed with the stigma of death. This curse made it impossible to use magic or potions on her, sealing her fate as a character destined to die. However, our boy has a way to save Sepia, even though she herself wishes for death. Junwoo believes he can use his skill, Pledge of Liberation, to neutralize Sepia's abnormal status effects. Though uncertain whether the skill can completely remove the stigma of death, he has a strong feeling that it might work. Despite this, Junwoo hesitates. Using the skill comes with a heavy price, as it reduces his stats by 10% after every contract. This makes him question whether it's worth taking the risk to make Sepia his subordinate. However, a sudden realization strikes him: how shallow his thinking has been. While Sepia may have started as a game character, she is now a living, breathing person in this world. Treating her life as if it were just part of a game feels fundamentally wrong to him, especially when they are suffering right in front of him. Junwoo decides to save Sepia's life. He knows he is not a monster like the slave dealers group and tells Sepia that he has a way to undo her curse. Sepia is shocked to hear that her life can be saved and signals to Junwoo that she wants to live. Understanding her plea, Junwoo takes her hand to initiate the Pledge of Liberation, which Sepia accepts. The system informs Junwoo that his vitality will be consumed in proportion to the severity of the target's abnormal state. It also warns him that the contract may fail if he doesn't have enough vitality, giving him a confirmation message to proceed or cancel. Despite the significant loss of 10% of his stats and the risk to his vitality, Junwoo resolves to go through with the contract to save Sepia. After some time, a blinding light emanates from where Junwoo initiated the contract. The system announces that he has successfully fulfilled the conditions for the hidden quest, Save Sepia. When Junwoo opens his eyes moments later, he finds himself in a strange, dreadful place filled with an army of monsters and soldiers. Junwoo observes the chaotic battlefield, where monsters and soldiers are locked in fierce combat. As he studies the soldiers' armor, he realizes it's his first time encountering that particular style and pattern. The battle rages on, and Junwoo begins to think that the humans are destined to lose this ferocious fight. While he ponders this, a brilliant light suddenly illuminates the battlefield from the sky. A blonde-haired woman descends gracefully from the heavens, her presence exuding divine authority. As she lands on the battlefield, she gazes directly at Junwoo and utters, "May the light be with you." In the next instant, Junwoo finds himself back where he had formed the contract with Sepia. He quickly realizes that what he had just witnessed was nothing more than an illusion. Junwoo reflects on the illusion he experienced, where he witnessed a large-scale war and the descent of an unknown woman from the sky. He suspects it is somehow connected to Sepia, which suggests that she is far from being an ordinary extra NPC. As our boy contemplates this, he receives a system message about the hidden quest to save Sepia. The message informs him that he has successfully discovered a way to undo the powerful curse, one that even Luna's holy magic cannot overcome. The system explains that Junwoo can neutralize the abnormal status by using a cage to exceed, rewarding him with a level 2 Pledge of Liberation skill. However, the system warns that the process may result in an expected loss of up to 90% of his vitality. Despite the risk, Junwoo confirms to the system that he wishes to proceed with the pledge. The system begins the process, initiating the neutralization of the stigma of death curse. As the procedure unfolds, Junwoo feels his vitality gradually depleting. Meanwhile, he notices that Sepia is slowly regaining her energy, showing signs of recovery. However, Junwoo's situation becomes dire as his vitality drops to just 10%. This sudden realization makes him question whether he had been far too complacent in underestimating the risks. Junwoo realizes that it's not just his vitality numbers decreasing. He can also feel the excruciating pain coursing through him. Meanwhile, Sepia, who still hasn't opened her eyes, begins to sense her pain fading away. She finds the red energy surrounding her to be unexpectedly warm and comforting. Yet, she is confused. Why would this person, a stranger she doesn't even know, go to such lengths for her? Junwoo, enduring the overwhelming pain, receives a system message confirming that he has successfully completed the hidden quest, Save Sepia. The message also informs him that his Pledge of Liberation skill has leveled up to level 2. However, Junwoo doesn't care about the reward. The pain is nearly unbearable. Determined to ensure their safety, he picks up Sepia and sets out to find a secure place where they can both rest. The scene then shifts to Sepia, who finds herself standing high above the clouds. She believes the silhouette in front of her belongs to her brother. However, moments later, she notices the man's hair. It is not silver like her brother's. She realizes the figure isn't her brother, but strangely, she feels no fear. Despite the unfamiliarity of the man before her, Sepia feels a sense of calm. Sepia suddenly wakes, realizing that what she saw moments ago was just a dream. She notices her mind feels clear, and the constant pain she once endured has completely vanished. For the first time in what seems like forever, she feels truly comfortable. As she looks around, Sepia sees our boy, Junwoo, sleeping in front of her. She wonders why this man went to such great lengths to save her, briefly considering if her older brother had sent him. However, she quickly dismisses the thought, realizing that Junwoo doesn't resemble one of Libernas' knights. As Sepia observes him, she finds it curious that, despite using a standard sword, Junwoo's body bears no scars. While she's busy piecing together these small details, our boy suddenly wakes up, startling Sepia. She quickly moves away, her shock evident. Junwoo realizes he must have unintentionally dozed off and takes a moment to introduce himself. Sepia responds in kind, introducing herself and expressing her gratitude for saving her life. She then asks how he managed to find her and whether her brother had sent him. Instead of answering immediately, Junwoo hesitates. He realizes he has no solid information about Sepia, as she disappears from the storyline early in the game. The few things our boy knows about Sepia are that she was intended to be a human sacrifice and that she is the sister of Sigmund. Junwoo realizes that pretending to know either Sepia or Sigmund could create unnecessary confusion, so he decides to feign ignorance. Instead of revealing his knowledge about her or her brother, he simply asks Sepia about her brother. From Junwoo's question, Sepia concludes that he doesn't know anything about her, which only deepens her confusion. She wonders why Junwoo would risk his life to save her if he doesn't even know about her brother. Junwoo also realizes that Sepia wants to understand why he went to such lengths for someone he has never met. Lacking a proper explanation, our boy decides to improvise, telling Sepia that he did it because he wanted to hear her thanks. He briefly wonders if his response was too abrupt, but the conversation moves forward. As Junwoo talks with Sepia, he discovers that she doesn't seem to remember the subordination aspect of the contract. Despite having pledged herself to Junwoo and becoming his subordinate, she appears unaware of this fact. Junwoo deduces that there must be certain restrictions tied to Sepia's actions as part of the pledge. Junwoo checks Sepia's stats and discovers several traits tied to her subordination. With the obedience trait, Sepia would feel pain whenever she disobeys Junwoo. The bind trait ensures she experiences pain if she moves beyond a certain distance from him, and the destruction trait means Sepia will die the moment the pledge is broken. Junhwa finds these traits incredibly harsh but reasons that without this pledge, she would have died anyway. He concludes that he shouldn't feel overly guilty and resolves to calmly explain Sepia's current situation to her to prevent unnecessary panic. Junhwa asks Sepia if her brother is the head of Libernas' secondary night corps. If so, he suggests they head to Libernas together since it is their shared destination. However, Sepia hesitates to answer, which makes Junhwa realize she is still wary of him. A reasonable reaction, considering Junhwa might not seem much different from the strange slave traders in her eyes. To break the tension, Junhwa suddenly tells Sepia to hold his hand. When she hesitates, he reiterates, this time stating it as an order. This activates the obedience mechanism of the pledge, and Sepia involuntarily reaches out to hold his hand. The action leaves Sepia visibly shocked, as she realizes she has no control over disobeying him. Junhwa explains to Sepia that the two of them are now bound by a pledge, making her his subordinate. He further clarifies that under such a pledge, the subordinate party will experience pain if they disobey their contractor or attempt to leave their side. Junhwa emphasizes that this arrangement is dictated entirely by the contract and has nothing to do with his personal wishes. He tells Sepia that he had no choice but to form the pledge in order to save her life, and now they are stuck with each other, whether she likes it or not. As Junhwa observes Sepia's silence, he assumes it is natural for her to be wary. After all, following an unfamiliar vagabond is hardly appealing. He also realizes that even if Sepia reunites with her brother, she would likely want to part ways with him eventually. However, our boy is caught off guard when a system message informs him that he has gained Sepia's interest. Breaking her silence, Sepia tells Junhwa that she already owes her life to him. She asks him to take care of her, implying her acceptance of the subordinate role. Relieved by her willingness to agree, Junhwa suggests that they are now ready to head toward Libernas. The scene shifts to a masked man, visibly shocked as his subordinate reports that Sepia has disappeared from the cave. The subordinate adds that when they investigated the cave, they discovered that someone had killed all the bandits. This revelation enrages the masked man, who grabs the subordinate with his chains. He furiously demands if the subordinate has any idea how valuable the sacrifice they just lost was. The masked man had initially captured Sepia to spite her annoying brother, Sigmund. However, he soon realized that Sepia possessed enough potential to surpass the abilities of even a great mage. Her sacrifice could have elevated the masked man, Victor, from the third circle to the seventh circle in an instant. At that moment, another subordinate steps forward, informing him that Sepia has been spotted and does not seem to have traveled far from the cave. Without wasting a moment, Victor orders his men to follow him. He vows to personally hunt down a person who dared to take Sepia away from him. Junhwa continues his journey toward Libernas City with Sepia, though they have stopped to rest along the way. He has a bad feeling about their progress, as they are moving slowly due to Sepia not yet fully recovering from the aftereffects of the curse. While Junhwa is lost in thought, Sepia breaks the silence and asks if he is a roaming mercenary. She is curious about how Junhwa possesses the ability to override such a powerful curse, as it is something she has never encountered before. Sepia also questions Junhwa's ability to form a contract, knowing that not everyone is capable of such a feat. Junhwa, on the other hand, is taken aback by the string of questions now that Sepia has regained some energy. He responds vaguely, claiming he doesn't know much about his powers and that he simply happened to acquire them from a random temple. However, Sepia doesn't seem convinced. The system informs Junhwa that her trust in him has decreased by 1. Frustrated by this drop in trust, Junhwa changes the subject and asks Sepia why she was captured by the slave dealers group. Sepia's expression turns gloomy, and instead of answering, she hesitantly asks Junhwa if he is ordering her to reveal the reason. Junhwa calmly responds that it's not an order and that Sepia is free to choose whether or not to share anything about her capture. Hearing this, Sepia giggles, thinking that Junhwa is unexpectedly cute. The system informs Junhwa that Sepia's trust in him has increased by 1. Sepia then tells Junhwa that she has no reason to hold anything against the person who saved her. However, before she can finish her sentence, Junhwa suddenly grabs her hand and pulls her toward him. Sepia, astonished, asks why he did that. Our boy quietly tells her to look behind her. Turning around, Sepia is shocked to see the same eerie energy she remembers from when she was captured. At that moment, Junwoo is confronted by Victor, who praises him for dodging the attack. Victor, initially surprised that Junwoo knows his name, quickly deduces that our boy must have recognized his mark. Victor taunts Junwoo, accusing him of stealing what rightfully belongs to him, despite Junwoo's noble-like appearance. Junwoo, unfazed, offers a sarcastic apology for taking Victor's possession without permission. Without hesitation, he throws 3 wooden sticks toward Victor, signaling the start of their confrontation. Junwoo uses his mark skill to detonate the wooden sticks upon impact with Victor and his subordinates. Victor, emerging unscathed from the explosion, finds our boy increasingly intriguing. Meanwhile, Junwoo wonders if Victor's survival is due to having reached the 3rd circle of magic. He feels relieved that Victor hasn't reached the 5th circle, which would have required Sepia's sacrifice. This places Victor at the same level as Junwoo, giving our boy hope that he might be able to defeat him. Victor launches an attack, but Junwoo skillfully evades it, quickly dashing toward one of Victor's subordinates, who is preparing to strike. Before the subordinate can unleash his attack, Junwoo appears in front of him and kills him with a swift and decisive blow. Without missing a beat, Junwoo moves to another of Victor's subordinates, who, in a panic after witnessing his comrade's death, activates a defensive field. Undeterred, Junwoo slashes through the barrier, not only destroying the shield but also killing the subordinate in the process. The remaining subordinates regroup to protect Victor, working to buy him enough time to complete his magic circle. However, Junwoo has no intention of standing idly by and allowing Victor to finish. Junwoo continues taking down Victor's remaining subordinates as easily. Though he manages to take all of Victor's subordinates down, he is too late to stop Victor from completing his magic circle. Victor unleashes his attack, Eternal Curse, upon our boy. With a sinister grin, Victor tells Junwoo that running from this spell is pointless. It will chase him to the ends of the earth, leaving no escape. Victor confidently declares that it's all over for Junwoo. However, our boy proves to be one step ahead. Using his quick wit, Junwoo manipulates subordinates to intercept the curse. The subordinate, barely clinging to life, becomes the target of the spell instead. Calmly, Junwoo thanks the subordinate for taking the curse on his behalf and taunts Victor by calling him Grandpa, sarcastically complimenting the targeting effect of the spell. Victor, realizing that his ultimate attack has been wasted, becomes enraged. In his fury, he casts Flare in an attempt to catch Junwoo off guard. But Junwoo, unimpressed, mocks Victor for thinking such a spell would work in this situation. With a smirk, Junwoo adds that although Victor has reached the 3rd circle as a mage, his slow casting speed will ultimately be the cause of his demise. Victor, seething with anger, tells Junwoo that he could have reached the 7th circle if only he had his sacrifice, Sepia, whom Junwoo had stolen from him. However, Junwoo, unimpressed, counters that reaching the 7th circle would have been impossible for Victor and that his limit is the 5th circle. Victor, further enraged by this remark, unleashes another attack on Junwoo. Once again, our boy outsmarts him, hurling one of Victor's remaining subordinates toward him and using Mark to detonate the unfortunate subordinate. The explosion occurs right next to Victor, delivering a devastating blow. Believing the attack to be sufficient to defeat Victor, Junwoo approaches to deliver the final strike. However, as he closes in, he senses something ominous. His eyes lock onto the fire from the explosion, which appears to be moving in a strange, unnatural pattern across Victor's body. Junwoo quickly realizes that it isn't a normal pattern of fire, but something far more sinister. Our boy looks back and notices that Sepia is visibly furious. She has activated the same magic Victor once used to seal her and unleashes it upon him, wishing for him to feel the same pain she once endured at his hands. Sepia binds Victor with searing hot chains, causing him such unbearable agony that he begins to beg for his life. Meanwhile, Junwoo observes the scene and realizes that the magic Sepia is using contains an ego, a highly advanced form of magic. This type of spell can typically only be performed by NPCs in the late game, and even then, only those who have risen to the highest ranks are capable of such feats. Junwoo concludes that Sepia is far from an ordinary mage if she can wield magic of this caliber. However, he also notices that Sepia struggles to fully control her powers. After taking down Victor, she collapses from exhaustion. The scene shifts to Sigmund, the head of Liburnos Secondary Night Corps. He is informed by his subordinates that they have found traces of sepia at the border between the plains and the Tyr mountain range. Initial reports suggest that bandits and slave dealers may have been involved. Enraged by the news, Sigmund orders his subordinates to track down the culprits immediately. Sigmund orders his subordinates to hunt down the bandits and slave dealers immediately, commanding them not to leave a single one standing. The scene then shifts to Junwoo and Sepia, who are making their way toward Liburnos City along a path unfamiliar to Sepia. She asks our boy if he's sure it's the right way. Junwoo confidently responds that he wasn't joking when he said he knew a shortcut to Liburnos. However, instead of replying, Sepia simply stares at him. This leaves our boy wondering if her trust in him is dwindling again. Perhaps because he's navigating flawlessly without using a map or compass. Junwoo decides that making excuses might only lower Sepia's trust further, so he chooses to stay silent. However, he reflects on how complacent he had been in thinking that Sepia was someone he needed to protect. He hadn't anticipated her having such immense power. After the incident, our boy even checked her status window to ensure everything was normal, but the class section was hidden. This suggests that Sepia may have latent potential rivaling that of her brother, Sigmund. Breaking the silence, Junwoo tells Sepia to look straight ahead and reassures her that they will reach Liburnos City soon. Sepia responds with an unimpressed look, making Junwoo realize that he needs to gain more of her trust before attempting to ask questions about her power. Our boy knows that impatience could lead to disaster. He could easily end up like Victor. Moreover, after witnessing Sepia's alter ego when she killed Victor, Junwoo is convinced that there's no simple way to uncover her background story. Despite his better judgment, Junwoo grows impatient and decides to take a risk, disregarding the importance of trust levels. He wonders if asking Sepia a random question might reveal something useful. Gathering his courage, Junwoo tells Sepia he has something to ask her, then blurts out, "Are you a heretic by any chance?" Sepia is visibly shocked by the question, and the system notifies Junwoo that Sepia's trust in him has decreased by 5 points. The scene shifts to the Asura Cathedral of the Holy Kingdom of Asura, where Priestess Clara is greeted by a member of the church. The church member instructs Clara to follow him, and as they walk, Clara is awed by the sheer vastness and grandeur of the cathedral. Upon reaching their destination, the church member advises Clara to behave properly in the room she is about to enter. Even though he knows Clara was taught proper etiquette, the church member still reminds her to behave appropriately. Nervous but composed, Clara enters the presence of the noble moon of Luna, who is seated gracefully in her chair. Clara greets her, and the saintess, Kalina Luna, gently instructs her to raise her head, thanking her for coming all this way. Clara nervously responds, saying it is an honor to meet the noble saintess of the moon. Saintess Luna acknowledges Clara's arrival and mentions that she has heard about her visit to the Forgotten Temple. Luna then requests that Clara recount everything she saw, heard, and experienced during her time there, explaining that this is the primary reason she was summoned to the Asura Cathedral. Clara begins to recount her journey, starting from their departure, describing how they defeated the Black Knight, and concluding with their return to the village. Partway through her account, Luna gently stops her, thanking Clara for her efforts and acknowledging the value of her abilities in aiding the church. The saintess assures Clara that the parish will grant her an appropriate reward for her voyage and discoveries. She blesses Clara, wishing her continued guidance and light on her path. Overwhelmed with happiness from the praise, Clara thanks Saintess Luna and leaves the room, her spirits lifted by the recognition she received. Afterward, the saintess summons Paul Eppenhaus, the Archbishop of the Church of Luna, and shares her thoughts. She tells him that while she is certain Clara was truthful, the Monty Clara mentioned is most likely an imposter. The Archbishop nods in agreement. Saintess Luna then orders the Archbishop to draft and send a personal letter to Liburnos, instructing them to investigate the matter thoroughly. She emphasizes the importance of uncovering the whereabouts of this so-called Monty. The scene then shifts to Sepia, who is shocked by Junwoo's bizarre question. It makes no sense for him to ask her such a thing, as the Black Knights who kidnapped her were undoubtedly members of a cult. However, Junwoo explains that the reason he suspects her of being a heretic is that all cults share a common trait, their hunger for power rather than faith. The power Sepia wielded was something Junwoo had never seen before. It was chaotic and untamed. Sepia is at a loss for words. Until now, she had only been suspicious of Junwoo, but now he is turning that same suspicion back on her. Moreover, based on what she witnessed of Junwoo's combat abilities, she begins to suspect that he is an inquisitor from the Holy Office of the Church of Luna. If that is the case, she realizes she must tell him everything. Sepia then begins to reveal the source of her power. She explains that ever since childhood, she has experienced episodes of losing consciousness, accompanied by an overwhelming surge of mana. Her family sought help from numerous mages, but none could provide a solution to her condition. Junwoo asks if Sepia is unable to control this power through sheer willpower. Sepia nods in response, explaining that the power is not inherently evil. Whenever an episode occurs, the mana overload typically manifests as magic of either fire or light. Junwoo is surprised at the mention of the light element and recalls the illusion he saw when our boy formed a contract with Sepia. This makes our boy wonder whether Sepia possesses control over holy magic. Sepia urges Junwoo to trust her, insisting that, despite occasionally being overwhelmed by mana, she has never harmed a human. This, however, makes Junwoo question whether Sepia has forgotten how she killed Victor, or if, perhaps, she never even considered Victor to be human in the first place. Junwoo, on the other hand, is taken aback by how suddenly Sepia is being so open about her situation. He wonders if he unintentionally scared her too much. Meanwhile, Sepia directly asks Junwoo if he is an inquisitor. Our boy simply reiterates that he is nothing more than an ordinary mercenary, but Sepia remains unconvinced. She suspects otherwise, believing Junwoo to be from the East. Junwoo is astonished to learn that Sepia considers him an Easterner. However, our boy has no way of knowing anything about the homeland of a mere background character. Junwoo then asks Sepia how his being an Easterner relates to him being an inquisitor, to which Sepia responds that she has heard there are many foreigners in the Holy Office. Our boy dismisses this, stating that he is not affiliated with them, as he despises such suffocating organizations. The Holy Office's inquisitors, also known as the First Moon of Luna, wield immense power but are rigid in their methods, taking down anyone they even suspect of being a cultist. This means that if our boy were truly an inquisitor, he would have eliminated Sepia the moment he became suspicious of her, something Sepia fully understands. Junwoo then advises Sepia that they should align their stories, as they will soon arrive in Liberna City, and he does not want to tell Sepia's brother that she is his subordinate. Instead, he suggests that, since Sepia cannot be separated from him, they should inform Sigmund that she has joined Junwoo in search of a way to treat her injury. However, Sepia doubts her brother will believe that story, as he is likely too concerned about her to simply let her go. However, Junwoo believes that his story is far better than informing Sigmund about the subordination contract between them. Sepia, in turn, asks Junwoo to promise that he will stop Sigmund if he attempts to follow them, as she does not want her brother to throw his life away for her. Sigmund grew up in the slums and fought his way up to become the head of the secondary Night Corps, and Sepia fears that if he follows her, he could lose both his position and his honor. Junwoo initially believed it would be beneficial for everyone if Sigmund joined them on their journey, but after seeing Sepia's sincere request, he promises to prevent her brother from coming along. With that settled, Junwoo tells Sepia they should continue their journey, as Liberna City is now right in front of them. However, as they proceed, our boy hears the distant sound of approaching horses. Looking closely, he realizes that the knights riding toward them are carrying the flag of Libernas Knight Order. Sepia starts running toward the approaching horses, urging Junwoo to hurry, as her brother might be among the knights. However, Junwoo warns her not to run recklessly, cautioning that she might trip, even though our boy knows she is excited, having not seen her brother for a long time. Junwoo hopes that things will go smoothly for him, but he quickly realizes something is off when he notices Sigmund angrily charging toward him. As Sigmund approaches, he openly wishes for Junwoo's death and swings his sword while still on horseback. Junwoo attempts to block the attack, but the sheer force of the strike, amplified by Sigmund's momentum, knocks him to the ground. Taken aback by the sudden hostility, Junwoo tries to reason with Sigmund, telling him that he is mistaken. However, Sigmund dismounts, showing no interest in listening, and immediately resumes his assault on our boy. Junwoo barely manages to block the next strike, but Sigmund follows up with another powerful slash, which Junwoo fails to fully defend against, sending him flying to the ground once again. As Junwoo struggles to recover, he looks towards Sepia and realizes that he cannot count on any help from her. As it is impossible for Sepia to go against her brother, Junwoo decides to continue the fight alone without expecting any help. He considers himself lucky that Sigmund has not yet unleashed his full potential and quickly activates a shield around himself, momentarily throwing Sigmund off balance. However, Sigmund regains his footing and immediately resumes his assault. Junwoo swiftly dodges by leaping high into the air and delivers a kick aimed at Sigmund's face. Sigmund, however, manages to block the attack effortlessly with his sword but acknowledges Junwoo's skill, admitting that it was a move he had never seen before. As Sigmund prepares to strike again, he is suddenly hit lightly on the head by Sepia's magic. Shocked, he turns to find his sister glaring at him in clear disapproval of the fight. Seeing Sigmund's stunned reaction, our boy realizes how deep Sigmund's affection for Sepia runs and wonders if it is because she is his only blood relative. Sepia, now visibly angry, demands to know if Sigmund has lost his mind, accusing him of trying to kill her. This revelation stuns Sigmund, while Junwoo, on the other hand, grows both concerned and exasperated, realizing that he will now have to explain everything to Sigmund, who is just now learning that his sister will die without our boy. The scene then shifts to Liburna City, where Junwoo and Sepia have finally arrived. They are now seated in the reception room of the Liburna Knight's residence, where Junwoo explains to Sigmund that he is a wandering doctor from the East who has treated Sepia's curse using Eastern techniques while also eliminating all the dark mages in the process. Sepia, on the other hand, silently thinks that Junwoo is a natural liar. However, Junwoo himself sees no other way to explain the situation to Sigmund. After listening to Junwoo's story, Sigmund apologizes for the trouble he caused earlier but expresses skepticism, noting that Junwoo neither looks like a doctor nor acts like one, especially given his considerable martial prowess. He then asks Junwoo if all Eastern doctors are like him, to which our boy realizes that convincing Sigmund will not be easy. In response, Junwoo simply states that he crossed the ocean to get here, so at the very least, he knows how to protect himself. He further clarifies that Sepia's curse has not been completely cured. Rather, he has used a medical technique from the Eastern continent to temporarily halt its progression. However, he admits that curing Sepia's mark entirely through ordinary methods is impossible. Sigmund, after hearing Junwoo's explanation, grows desperate and asks our boy if he has a reliable cure for Sepia. Junwoo confidently responds that, of course, he does. After all, he is the best doctor in the East, one who even sailed across the ocean to get here. Sepia, on the other hand, is utterly shocked to see Junwoo shamelessly spouting one lie after another. Junwoo continues, telling Sigmund that there was a similar case back in his homeland known as formless poison, a condition that requires constant monitoring during treatment. Since the prescribed medicines frequently change, Junwoo explains that he and Sepia will have to keep traveling together to gather the necessary ingredients. This revelation infuriates Sigmund, who realizes that Sepia will have to leave him again. Frustrated, he tells Junwoo that he cannot allow it and offers to collect the ingredients himself. However, Junwoo firmly replies that only he can properly identify such rare ingredients. Moreover, if the medicine is not administered immediately after being prepared, it could become harmful to Sepia instead of helping her. Despite his resistance, Sigmund struggles with the idea of letting Sepia go, but Sepia gently reassures him, asking him to trust her. She promises to return healthy, safe, and sound. Sigmund becomes emotional and suggests that Sepia go to his room and get some rest, as she must be exhausted from the long journey. He tells her that in the meantime, he will have a private conversation with the doctor. Sepia gladly starts walking toward the room, feeling content after finally being able to share a meal with her brother after so long. However, as she passes by Junwoo, our boy suddenly grabs her hand and, under the guise of checking her pulse, whispers in her ear, ordering her not to wander around and to write a farewell letter to Sigmund while pretending to be unwell. Sepia nods subtly and continues towards Sigmund's room as instructed. Junwoo then reminds her to take care of herself and assures her not to worry, as he will be checking in on her from time to time. Once Sepia is gone, Sigmund turns to Junwoo and tells him to drop the pretense, encouraging him to speak freely if he has any concerns. Junwoo smirks and replies that, coincidentally, he was about to say the same thing. Sigmund then pointedly asks Junwoo about his true identity, making our boy realize that Sigmund is not looking for the same fabricated answer he gave him just moments ago. Realizing that Sigmund won't accept the same fabricated answer, Junwoo decides to go with something closer to the truth. He tells Sigmund that he has been going by the name Dio in these parts while working as a mercenary to make a living. Upon hearing this, Sigmund asks if he possesses a mercenary medallion, to which our boy responds that he was planning to obtain one here in Liburnos. Sigmund then presses further, questioning why he should believe that Junwoo is capable of lifting Sepia's curse. Junwoo calmly responds that he has already cured it once before. However, in reality, our boy knows he cannot reveal the full truth, not even if it means risking his life. Telling Sigmund directly that Sepia's curse has been lifted and that she is now bound by a contract with him is simply not an option. Hearing Junwoo's response, Sigmund scoffs, calling it nonsense. He finds it hard to believe that Junwoo would risk his life to save Sepia from both the bandits and the black mages without a clear motive. This question causes our boy to tense up. No matter how many times he is asked why he saved Sepia, he finds it difficult to answer. This time, even more so, as he cannot simply wing it like he did when Sepia questioned him. After a brief pause, Junwoo finally speaks, stating that he doesn't need a reason to save someone. Sigmund, however, remains unconvinced. With narrowed eyes, he tells Junwoo that he is still unsure whether he can entrust Sepia to him, as Junwoo remains far too suspicious. Our boy understands that Sigmund's concerns are reasonable, but there is no way he can reveal that he possesses a level 10 storage character. Instead, he listens as Sigmund asks whether he can truly save Sepia from the curse. Sigmund admits that he wants to trust Junwoo, considering that he was the one who rescued Sepia from the black mages and is also aware of the curse, something Sigmund never disclosed to anyone else. Junwoo confidently assures him that, aside from the Archbishop of Luna, he is the only person on the continent capable of curing Sepia's curse. As expected, Sigmund immediately responds that he cannot trust the Archbishop of Luna. Junwoo had deliberately brought up the Church of Luna, knowing full well that Sigmund harbors deep distrust toward it. Now, he watches carefully, wondering which side Sigmund would consider the lesser of two evils, Junwoo or the Church. Thinking he should give Sigmund another reason to trust him, our boy decides to bait him. He casually mentions that he can also assist with the recent disappearances, believing that proving his abilities in front of Sigmund is crucial to earning his trust. However, Sigmund is immediately skeptical, doubting that a foreigner could know anything useful. But the moment Junwoo mentions the back alley, Sigmund's demeanor shifts dramatically. He abruptly rises from his couch and, without hesitation, points his sword directly at Junwoo. After witnessing Sigmund's shocked reaction to the mention of the back alley, so much so that he instinctively drew his sword, Junwoo calmly tells him to relax. He knows that Sigmund must be wondering how our boy even knows about that name. Without hesitation, Junwoo explains that he simply deduced the connection. Given the increasing frequency of disappearances, it was only natural to suspect they were linked to the darker side of Liburnos, particularly the back alley. He also points out that this was the very place where Sigmund had begun searching for his missing sister. Junwoo is well aware that the back alley has become a wasteland, and he has also learned that the criminal organizations operating there are dangerously powerful, so much so that even the Night Corps dare not interfere with them. Since Sigmund mistakenly ended up provoking a beehive that turned out to be unrelated to his search, dealing with the aftermath must have become a major headache for him. Sigmund, still wary, comments that people around Junwoo seem to be very talkative. Our boy smirks and replies that he is merely trying to demonstrate his worth. After all, Sigmund himself had said he couldn't trust him. However, Sigmund remains unconvinced, still doubtful that Junwoo could possibly solve his problems. In response, Junwoo leans in slightly and assures him that he has everything planned out. He already knows exactly how to wipe out the back alley underground. The scene then shifts to one of the rooms in the Second Night Corps' residence, where Sigmund listens in amazement to Junwoo's plan. He finds it remarkably thorough and well-structured, making it clear that Junwoo didn't just improvise it on the spot. This leads Sigmund to suspect that it might not be Junwoo's first time in Liburnos City. In response, Junwoo casually tells Sigmund that he worked as an army surgeon in his younger days, which also involved doing his fair share of investigative work. He urges Sigmund to trust him, reassuring him that it's not as if he intends to do anything questionable. Sigmund remains silent for a moment before finally asking Junwoo what he truly wants. He still finds Junwoo's explanation unconvincing. After all, even if Junwoo had heard all the rumors circulating in other cities, it doesn't explain how he was able to pinpoint the connection between Sigmund and the underground world. The criminal groups have been a persistent thorn in Sigmund's side for years, and for Junwoo to uncover this so quickly only deepens his suspicion. Sigmund begins to wonder whether Junwoo might actually be capable of solving a problem that he himself has struggled with for years. Still wary, he decides that, at the very least, Junwoo should be monitored. The scene then shifts to Junwoo, who is now wandering through the bustling markets of Libernas City. As he takes in the familiar sights and sounds, our boy realizes that nothing has changed from the game. It is exactly as he remembers it. Junwoo recalls that beyond a certain bustling shopping street lies the boundary that leads directly into the criminal underground. Having played with Libernas as his starting city, our boy remembers the storyline surrounding the back alleys in vivid detail. However, now that he is experiencing it firsthand, the place he once entered fearlessly in the game suddenly feels far more intimidating in reality. Junwoo reflects on the two dominant forces that control the underground world: the moderate faction, Golden Dawn, and the extremist group, Rise Howl. In the original story, Rise Howl eventually seized complete control of the back alleys. However, in the game, Sigmund ultimately annihilated them in an uncontrollable rage following Sepia's death. But now that her survival has been secured, Sigmund no longer has a reason to unleash his wrath upon the criminal underworld, throwing the expected course of events into complete uncertainty for our boy. Despite this, Junwoo realizes that the previous storyline holds a valuable clue he can use to his advantage. In the game, Golden Dawn was ultimately wiped out by Rise Howl after suffering severe losses at Sigmund's hands. Right now, the story is at that exact turning point, meaning that Golden Dawn is still intact but vulnerable. If Junwoo acts carefully, he might be able to change the course of events entirely. Junwoo enters the headquarters of Golden Dawn and delivers a message to its leader, Ruden, in his role as the Inspector General. Ruden had not expected the Inspector General to personally visit their headquarters to deliver Sigmund's apology, especially since the vice leader, Sigmund, rarely apologizes to them. Junwoo, however, is more surprised by something else. Despite Golden Dawn having suffered heavy losses, Ruden still greets him with a smile. It's exactly the kind of composure Junwoo expected from the head of Golden Dawn, though it doesn't change the fact that Ruden is, at the end of the day, a despicable criminal. Keeping up appearances, Junwoo assures Ruden that they will no longer interfere in the back alleys and expresses his hope that they can maintain good relations moving forward. Ruden nods in agreement and politely tells Junwoo to take care on his way back. As Junwoo steps out of Golden Dawn's headquarters, he reflects on how the foundation for the events 2 days from now has been successfully laid. With this matter settled, all that remains is for him to visit the storage NPC, who, to Junwoo's surprise, is standing right in front of him. The scene then shifts to the sewers beneath Libernas City, where Junwoo is now busy fending off a swarm of rat men, vicious creatures armed with knives, using them to hunt their prey. However, today, they are the ones being hunted. As Junwoo fights, he notices that the essence of fire he retrieved from his storage has fulfilled another requirement for a skill evolution. However, upon inspection, he finds that the skill itself has not changed significantly. While checking the system's status message, another Ratman attempts to ambush him. However, Junwoo senses the movement just in time, activating his shield to block the attack. In one swift motion, he retaliates, sending the creature flying back toward the rest of its group. Without hesitation, he activates his skill mark, triggering an explosion that wipes out the remaining Ratmen. As the battle ends, Priest Krupies approaches and greets Junwoo, checking to make sure he is unharmed. Junwoo, still unfazed, simply responds that he is doing just fine. Krupies praises Junwoo's extraordinary strength, remarking that his explosion magic was powerful enough to shatter the holy shield he had laid out. Junwoo had met Priest Krupies of the Luna Temple shortly after registering as a mercenary and taking on a few quests, one of which was this very mission, a Ratman extermination that required him to clear out the city's sewers. Initially, Junwoo had planned to complete the quest alone, but later decided there was no harm in having a priest in the party, so he offered Krupies the opportunity to join him. Krupies expresses his gratitude, thanking Junwoo for assisting with the church's investigation mission, as it has been progressing much more smoothly thanks to his help. Junwoo, however, humbly responds that it is not entirely his doing, as he has only been able to clear out the monsters so efficiently because of Krupies' support. After a while, Junwoo turns to Krupies and suggests that they have gone deep enough, asking if they should stop here. Krupies nods in agreement, stating that he also believes there are no more rat men left. With their mission complete, Krupies once again thanks Junwoo and offers a prayer, wishing that the blessing of Luna be with him. As Junwoo departs, Krupies reaches into his robes and retrieves a piece of paper. It is an official directive from Archbishop Paul, confirming that they have finally found the man they were searching for. The scene then shifts to Rise Howl's territory, where Junwoo stands, waiting to meet their leader. However, the bandit members of Rise Howl immediately suspect our boy of being a spy from Golden Dawn, as he happens to be wearing the exact clothing they had been warned about. This confirms Junwoo's expectation that information spreads rapidly through the underground. One of the bandits steps forward, sneering at Junwoo and telling him that he is far too arrogant if he thinks Rise Howl is as weak as Golden Dawn. Drawing his sword, the bandit prepares for a fight. Junwoo, rather than feeling threatened, smirks in satisfaction. He had been hoping for this. With only a few experience points left before reaching level 90, the situation has turned out to be in his favor. Feigning indifference, Junwoo tells the bandits that he only came to meet their boss, but if fighting them speeds up the process, he has no problem. His words instantly enrage the Rise Howl members, and without hesitation, they all charge at him, determined to take him down. The scene then shifts to one of the rooms inside Rise Howl's hideout, where their leader lounges leisurely. The moment of calm is abruptly shattered by loud banging at the door. Before she can react, it bursts open. One of her subordinates is sent flying into the room, landing in a crumpled heap at her feet. The bandit leader is mildly surprised at first, but her expression quickly shifts to shock when she sees Junwoo step into the room. Our boy had made it here thanks to the very members of Rise Howl themselves, so he casually thanks them for guiding him. The bandit leader immediately recognizes Junwoo as the Easterner who was brought into the city by Sigmund. Narrowing her eyes, she questions why he has come here, especially after first going to Golden Dawn. In response, Junwoo states that Sigmund has tasked him with cleaning up the back alleys. Upon hearing this, the Rise Howl leader bursts into laughter. She finds the claim utterly ridiculous, as the Sigmund she knows, proud and unwavering, would never entrust a Liburnos problem to an outsider. Dismissing Junwoo's words as an obvious lie, she scoffs and calls him a liar. Without warning, she tosses the bottle she had been drinking from straight at Junwoo and coldly asks whether he has come to declare war. Assuming for a moment that what he just said is true, Junwoo remains unfazed and calmly replies that he did not come with the intention of declaring war. This response takes the Rise Howl leader by surprise, prompting her to demand an explanation. Junwoo then clarifies that while Sigmund did indeed request him to clean up the back alleys, he is not one of Sigmund's subordinates. Therefore, he is free to act however he pleases. Junwoo then declares to the Rise Howl leader that he has come with the intention of uniting the back alleys. His words immediately enrage her, and without hesitation, she orders her men to teach him a lesson, deciding that there is no need for negotiations. All of the Rise Howl bandits charge at Junwoo at once. Amidst the chaos, he quickly spots an archer among them, loosing an arrow in his direction. However, even in the midst of the commotion, our boy easily catches the arrow mid-air, unfazed. Assessing the battlefield, he notes that 20 Rise Howl members are attacking him, excluding their leader. None of them appear to be mages, though 3 are positioned at long range. Deciding to deal with the close combat fighters first, Junwoo swiftly retrieves his sword from his inventory and activates Forgotten Swordsmanship. As he swings his blade, his attacks don't cut his opponents. Instead, each slash sends them hurtling backward, crashing toward their boss. The unexpected force of his strikes stuns the bandits, who begin to suspect that Junwoo is a magic swordsman. Warier now, they decide to avoid coming near his blade. However, Junwoo has no intention of waiting for them to adjust. Without hesitation, he charges forward, striking one of the bandits with overwhelming force and sending him flying straight into the others. The impact sends all of the Rise Howl bandits crashing to the ground. Junhwa smirks. He then turns to their leader, Tusk, and taunts her, asking how long she plans to just stand there watching as her subordinates get beaten down. With a casual tone, he warns that if this continues, he'll end up taking down every single one of them. Tusk, enraged by Junhwa's words, wastes no time. After ensuring her subordinates have cleared the way, she charges straight at him with her shield. Junhwa meets her attack head-on, blocking her charge with his sword. Tusk, however, bursts into laughter, finding it amusing that someone who talks so boldly has only this level of skill. Junhwa quickly assesses her strength. While she isn't as skilled as Sigmund, she is definitely stronger in raw power. Even so, our boy is unfazed. Instead of backing down, he calmly applies a little force to his sword and pushes Tusk back. Undeterred, Tusk immediately launches another attack, this time putting all of her strength behind it, determined to end the fight in a single decisive blow. However, Junhwa effortlessly blocks her heavy strike with just one arm. The sheer ease with which he neutralizes her attack leaves Tusk in complete shock. She can't believe that her full-powered axe strike was stopped so effortlessly. Junhwa, seeing her astonishment, decides not to leave her hanging. With a smirk, he casually informs her that his gear is level 100 equipment, revealing that he has equipped himself with the Gauntlet of Instigation, a uniquely graded item. Tusk is shocked to see Junhwa equip an artifact out of nowhere, which makes our boy realize that the in-game term for unique grade equipment is artifact. However, none of the players ever seem to pay much mind to technicalities like that. According to the settings of the game, items with a grade of unique or higher are called artifacts, and they are considered extremely valuable. Tusk gets a little startled and tells our boy that he is mistaken if he believes he would be able to win just because he is wearing an artifact. Tusk attacks Junhwa with his shield, but Junhwa is able to deal with her attack by ducking and attacking her, which causes Tusk to take a knee. It is not possible for even someone like Tusk to stand after taking a blow from a unique item in the Instigation 6-piece set, because the strength increase alone after wearing this is over 150 points. Moreover, a level difference is nothing in the face of good items. As our boy is thinking about this, Tusk suddenly goes berserk after waking up and rushes to attack our boy, who is surprised at her fast recovery speed. Junhwa thinks that taking Tusk's punches head-on is going to prove dangerous even with the unique items. Junhwa grabs Tusk's arm with the help of the Gauntlet of Instigation, which causes Tusk to lose her weapon and gives our boy a chance to utilize the momentum of Tusk's attack to slam her to the ground. Tusk gets knocked out after being smashed to the ground, telling Tusk's subordinates to behave themselves if they care about the life of their boss. Our boy wonders if defeating Tusk means that he is finally strong now, but soon realizes that he has quite a long way to go before he can call himself strong. Junhwa starts missing Raymond, who was his first friend that he made after falling into the game, and wonders if he is doing good in his life. The scene then shifts to Raymond, who was captured by someone, and he is the only one remaining alive out of the party of 3. Raymond wishes that someone saves him. A red-haired lady, who goes by the name Scarlet, walks in, where she is greeted by Jahan. Scarlet asks Jahan if he found any useful information from Raymond and his friends, to which Jahan responds that after some persuasion, the adventurers spilled everything. Jahan tells Scarlet that the adventurers only knew that after the monster wave at Avera village, the guy they were looking for left on a carriage. Scarlet asks Jahan if they found anything from the carriage driver, to which Jahan responds that the carriage driver told him that during the trip to Liburnas, the guy suddenly asked to be dropped off in the Paramount Plains. Scarlet takes a smoke and talks about how Raymond and his friends talked about being loyal when they were first brought into this room, but after getting thoroughly persuaded, they spilled out everything. Scarlet finds believing in a weak concept like loyalty to be hilarious and believes that it is a road to suffering. In the meantime, Scarlet's knight enters the room, informing her about the carrier pigeon that arrived from Asura, which contains information regarding the discovery of a suspicious mercenary in Liburnas, who has a low grade but his explosion skill and swordsmanship are quite similar to Monster Hunter Monty. Scarlet thinks that they would be able to pick up Monty's trail if they managed to catch this Monty, and it would be even better that Monty is the guy they are looking for. Scarlet tells his guard to make preparations as they are going to Liburnas City and instructs Jahan to take down Raymond. The scene shifts to Tusk, who is curious as to why Junhwa did not kill her even though he had the perfect chance. Junwoo reminds her that he already told Tusk and her subordinates that he came with the intention of having a discussion. Tusk asks our boy about his objectives, to which Junwoo reminds Tusk that he already mentioned how Sigmund wants him to unite the two forces of the underground, and the reason Junwoo came here is because he dislikes troublesome things like unification, as unifying the two groups means that Junwoo would have to stay and manage everything in the underground. Instead of doing that, Junwoo suggests that Tusk should unify the back alleys in Junwoo's place, which sends a great shock to Tusk, as she was not expecting Junwoo to hand her the leadership of the back alley. Our boy mentions that he tried to make the same suggestion to Golden Dawn, but our boy realized that they did not have the right vibe, as they act like good people. However, they would stab our boy in the back at the very first opportunity they get. So instead of the Golden Dawn, our boy wants Tusk to handle things because he likes her personality. Our boy then explains to Tusk that he will tell Sigmund that he unified the two forces, but instead of Junwoo handling things here, Tusk would be the true ruler, and just like she always wanted, the whole back alley would all be in her hands. It has been 10 years since the guy with an eye patch joined Rise Howl group, and back when he joined, the back alleys were not divided into forces, as they were just somewhere criminals lived and intermingled. The first person to unite all those hooligans and criminals was none other than the boss of Rise Howl, Tusk, who did it through overwhelming power. Tusk was not simply a violent woman but also possessed overwhelming charisma and leadership skills. So under the belief that she would one day rule the back alleys and overthrow Libernas, the eye patch guy pledged his allegiance to her, but he did not that someone like Tusk would simply fall for the tricks of an unknown guy who gave him a blind hope of making her the ruler of the back alleys. Our boy is glad that Tusk accepted his offer and instructs her to install bombs in certain places around the city and let them go off. Our boy further adds that after that, Tusk would just have to take care of the Golden Dawn members that run out thinking they are under attack, which should not be hard since their forces would be already weakened. Tusk is concerned whether the knights and guards will stop them if they attack so openly. However, our boy assures her that they would not even touch them. Rather, they might even end up helping Rise Howl. Our boy tells Tusk that the whole incident will be recorded as Rise Howl saving a lot of citizens by stopping the Golden Dawn, who were terrorizing the whole town with bombs, which will not only make Tusk famous, but she will also become the ruler of the back alleys. The eye patch guy does not believe Junwoo, as he knows that there is no way someone so stubborn like Sigmund would try to unify the back alleys while turning a blind eye to such a dangerous plot, and thinks that this is a trap, telling his boss Tusk to think about it carefully. The eye patch guy asks his boss if she is going to believe the words of this cunning guy, on which Tusk tells the eye patch guy to shut his mouth, as Junwoo was able to easily kill all of the Rise Howl, leaving Golden Dawn as the sole owner of the back alley, and tells her subordinate that this is a golden opportunity, ordering her subordinates to prepare to move the explosives instead of standing there like an idiot. Eye patch guy cannot believe that Tusk is easily trusting Junwoo and thinks that he should do something to save his boss. The scene then shifts to Sepia, who opens the door of her room, only to find out that Junwoo has visited her, to see how Sepia was doing since it has been quite a while. Sepia tells Junwoo that she is feeling good. However, she feels a slightly suffocating feeling in her heart when our boy gets farther away from her and asks Junwoo if it is something dangerous, to which Junwoo responds that it should be fine as long as they are not too far away from each other. Junwoo has been taking extra care to stay within the designated distance, but he realizes that he should keep Sepia by his side as much as possible so that she does not get scared. Junwoo informs Sepia that he will be done with his errands in Libernas, so Sepia should start packing her belongings to prepare for her journey and say her goodbyes to her brother, to which Sepia nods sadly. Junwoo realizes that Sepia is depressed and thinks that having to leave one's hometown and family behind without any prior planning would obviously leave one depressed. Our boy is not good at comforting others. However, he pats Sepia's head and tells her to not worry much, as they might soon find a way to release the pledge on their travels. To lighten up the mood, our boy tells Sepia that before they leave the Libernas city, he would show her an incredible view of the Libernas skyline that no citizen of Libernas has ever seen. However, our boy does not get any kind of reaction from Sepia, which makes him realize that he is really not good at comforting others. After talking with Sepia, Junwoo notices that Sigmund is waiting for Junwoo and asks if they should start talking, thanking Sigmund for waiting until our boy was done speaking with Sepia, which just shows how kind Sigmund is. Sigmund tells our boy to not be arrogant. Sigmund then tells our boy that he was under his observation for the whole week, and he was truly surprised to see that our boy poked at both factions, and suddenly signed up as a mercenary before going to the sewers, which is something Sigmund does not understand. So he asks Junwoo if he went to the sewers to earn some money. Sigmund tells Junwoo that he does not know the reason Junwoo went into the sewers, but waltzing into the Rise Howl base was way too dangerous, as they do not hesitate to commit nefarious deeds, which would have put his sister's life in danger had Junwoo got himself killed there. Our boy had already expected that Sigmund would keep an eye on him. However, he had no idea that Sigmund was concerned about his sister, so our boy tells Sigmund to stop worrying and focus on current matters, as everything is going according to plan, and the only thing Sigmund needs to do is move the Night Core appropriately from now on, to which Sigmund nods and tells Junwoo that he will move the knights carefully. Sigmund asks our boy if his plan is to capture the Rise Howls while they mistakenly believe that the knights are on their side, to which our boy nods, telling Sigmund that he should wait and give the Rise Howls some time to take care of Golden Dawn and wait an hour after the signal before he moves the knights. Sigmund does not understand what Junwoo means by signals, so he asks our boy about it, to which our boy responds that he is talking about explosions. However, Sigmund does not like the idea of explosions, as it would put the civilians in danger, but our boy assures Sigmund that there would not be any kind of civilian casualties. After 4 days, the fight day arrives, and while Liburnos remained as peaceful as a lake, preparations for the huge battle were underway beneath the surface, as Tusk had finished installing the explosives in the plaza last night and was now waiting for the catalyst to activate, which will cause all the bombs to activate at noon. Tusk is happy that her time is going to arrive very soon, when she will be the sole boss of the back alley, as now they have a benefactor with the same goal, which will make her dream to unify the back alleys come true. Even though the Rise Howls were capable enough to defeat Golden Dawn in a direct fight at any time, their only problem was Sigmund and his knights, who were a thorn in their necks. However, Tusk in her wildest dreams did not imagine that an Eastern would solve her only problem without any cost, and it would not be long until noon, when Tusk would achieve her goal, which makes these few seconds feel longer than the past 4 days. However, at that very moment, Tusk felt her senses tingle, and as a battle-oriented northerner, she sensed a danger was coming, so fast that it could not be ignored anymore. Tusk noticed that the boxes of equipment she spent the whole night preparing with her subordinates for the Golden Dawn were also at her own place, so she quickly stood up and opened one of the boxes, which had all those dynamites she had installed, with only 9 seconds left for them to explode. Tusk was surprised to find the dynamites in her hideout. However, they had been left by none other than Junwoo, and there was nothing Tusk could do to prevent a massive explosion from occurring at her hideout. Even though Tusk's hideout blew up like any other explosive, the citizens saw beautiful fireworks popping in the sky, leading them to wonder if their lord had planned an event, as it was not yet festival time, and there was no way that their lord would do this to enlighten their mood. The scene then shifts to Sepia, who is mesmerized by these beautiful fireworks, while our boy, on the other hand, is lying down on a tree, complaining about how uselessly diligent the guys from the Rise Howl were, as they had set so many bombs that our boy had to run around all night and change the everything that the Rise Howl set up, leaving our boy tired. Our boy replaced the city bombs with Christmas fireworks, which is an event-level equipment, and it fills the whole sky with happiness and joy for 100 minutes. As they are enjoying the fireworks while believing that it must have been their gift from the Lord, a guy notices that there is a huge fire in one of the buildings, which he believes is caused by fireworks, so he shouts at people to quickly call the guards. However, little do they know that this fire is coming from the explosion caused in the hideout of Rise Howl, which ended up killing Rise Howl's boss Tusk, along with his executive, giving our boy more than 75,000 experience points. As our boy gets the experience points, he pities the poor state of the survivors of Rise Howl, who do not know what happened to their boss and are excitedly taking down the Golden Dawn, searching for the leader of the Golden Dawn, Rudens. Rudens ends up getting swarmed by the Rise Howl's group members, which allows our boy to successfully complete the quest about cleaning up the back alley of Liburnos City, and he gets the badge of Honorary Knight of Liburnos. Our boy is lying down on the tree branch waiting for the knights to clean up the mess when he notices Sigmund running down the back alley with his knights to deal a finishing blow to the remaining members of Golden Dawn and Rise Howl. After noticing that Sigmund is busy, Junwoo decides to take Sepia and run away, as it would be best to take her and leave while Sigmund is away, busy in his own matters, because it is possible that they end up changing their minds if they meet again. The scene then shifts to Sepia, who is curious if this is the gift Junwoo was talking about last night and wonders if she is really going to leave this village. As she is wondering about this, Sepia hears the noise of the door of her house getting opened and wonders who entered the house even though she made sure to lock the door. The scene then shifts to the back alley, where the knights are subjugating different areas of the back alley one after the other, and Sigmund is surprised to learn that everything is going according to Junhwa's plans. As Junhwa planned the self-destruction of Risehal's boss, the surprise attack on the Golden Dawn, after realizing how skilled Junhwa really is, Sigmund wonders if he should actually leave Sepia in Junhwa's care. However, he decides to focus on the matter at hand and orders his subordinates to collect the corpse of Rudens, telling them that they would leave once they have removed all of the bodies. However, as they were preparing to collect the corpse, one of the subordinate notices that a strange mist is coming out of the corpse of Rudens, which scares the living life out of them. Sigmund observes the purple mist and realizes that it is similar to what the demon race leaves behind, which makes him wonder if Rudens was a demon. However, as he is wondering about this, the mist starts flying towards Sepia, which shocks Sigmund, and he orders all of his subordinates to go back to protect Sepia. The scene then shifts to our boy, who is surprised to find Rudens standing beside the unconscious body of Sepia, wondering how things turn like this when everything was going according to the plan. Rudens gives our boy a nice welcome and asks if he wants to have a talk, while our boy, on the other hand, is lost figuring out the reason behind Rudens' survival, even though he never heard about it when he was playing the game. Our boy remembers that Rudens expanded the Golden Dawn through business instead of combat, but in the original game, he vanished right after Sigmund's awakening. Our boy looks at the aura of Rudens, which is completely different from when he first met him in the back alley, and concludes that Rudens' demeanor was an act and the reason he is back is because Rudens has a hidden story. Our boy asks Rudens if he has a business with him, to which Rudens nods and seals the door of the room with his mana, which further shocks our boy, as he was not expecting someone like Rudens to be a mage. Junhwa wonders if he would be able to beat Rudens, as he has no way of knowing how strong he actually is. Moreover, Rudens is also holding Sepia as a hostage, which must make things worse. As our boy is wondering about the optimal way to deal with this situation, he suddenly throws a dagger at Rudens, which lands, giving our boy enough time to jump at Rudens with his sword. However, to our boy's surprise, Rudens was able to recover without breaking a sweat. However, our boy utilizes this chance to save Sepia. Rudens praises our boy's excellent decision-making skills and considers him a skilled swordsman despite being so young. Rudens then asks our boy if he has already guessed his secret as well, to which our boy responds that considering Rudens' unique recovery ability, he is bound to be a vampire, as vampires are the only species in OTF with such a fast recovery ability. Rudens praises Junhwa's knowledge and skill. However, he believes that it is still not strong enough and asks Junhwa if there is a problem with his equipment, or if it is the extent of Junhwa's abilities. Junhwa fully knows that it is a combination of both, as he is currently compensating for his lack of skills with his equipment. However, this Sword of Annihilation is only a level 60 weapon. Junhwa asks Rudens if he intends to give him new equipment, given how Rudens is specifically asking these questions. Rudens laughs at how slick of a talker Junhwa is, while Junhwa, on the other hand, does not like Rudens' behavior and asks why Rudens keeps judging, even though he is the one who broke in and immediately kidnapped someone. Rudens, instead of answering our boy, charges straight at him and tries to punch Junhwa in the face. However, our boy was able to react to such a fast punch, blocking it with his sword blade. Rudens' hands change their form and take the shape of the hands of a vampire, and he continues to attack our boy. Our boy manages to block Rudens' attacks, on which Rudens praises our boy for holding out pretty well, but tells him that unfortunately his strength would not be able to stop Rudens. Rudens sends Junhwa flying into the air, and as Junhwa is standing up, Rudens charges at him, as Junhwa's side is unprotected. However, as Rudens grows closer to him, our boy stabs Rudens' eye using one of the candle holders. Our boy then asks Rudens if the cut was too shallow because he was basically trying to blow Rudens' head off. This makes Rudens realize that Junhwa showed himself unprotected to Rudens on purpose so that he can prepare a counter, which is not a bad tactic against an opponent who is faster. Junhwa, however, is not pleased with his attack because with his last attack, Junhwa was able to find out that even a silver candle holder is ineffective against Rudens, which means that Rudens is a higher-class vampire. Rudens starts laughing out of nowhere and tells Junhwa that he has passed Rudens' test. However, Junhwa is annoyed with Rudens' behavior and asks Rudens if he knows him, to which Rudens nods, telling Junwo that he is the Forgotten Swordsman. Junwo is surprised to hear that title. However, Rudens informs him that there is no need to be surprised because they both know each other's identities. Junwo wonders if the Forgotten Swordsman is related to the hidden class, so he questions Rudens about his identity, to which Rudens responds that he is a vampire who has lived for thousands of years and has become a clan head. Based on this information, Junwo realizes that his assumption about Rudens being a higher-class vampire was incorrect because Rudens is actually a vampire lord, which means that Rudens is at least level 350 and Junwo would have been already dead if Rudens was fighting seriously. Junwo then asks Rudens if his clan is hiding within the Libernas city, to which Rudens tells Junwo to not worry, assuring our boy that he is the only vampire in the city, which further surprises Junwo. Seeing Junwo surprised, Rudens explains that Libernas city contains lost history from thousands of years ago and Junwo, whom Rudens again addresses as the Forgotten Swordsman, must have seen the murals of that history, which allowed him to gain power. At that point, Junwo receives a class quest which got initiated because he encountered a being who remembers forgotten history, and the quest tells Junwo to uncover that hidden knowledge to gain hidden powers. Junwo realizes that he can easily know the background story of the Forgotten Swordsman quest easily from Rudens, so he requests Rudens to tell him more about the history of this power. Rudens agrees to it and begins with the mention of Holy Age, which became the cause of everything 1,000 years ago even though people worship only one deity today, Luna, the goddess of the moon. In the past, countless deities gave humans their own teachings, and there was also a deity far stronger than Luna, the god of the sun, whom Rudens follows even today. Rudens shows a symbol at his arm to Junwo, which Junwo realizes is the same symbol he saw when he was shown a vision while rescuing Sepia and back when Otf was a game. Junwo remembers hearing a story of there being countless churches in ancient times, but the only church that survived the test of time was the Church of Luna. Junwo believes that the sun mark on the Rudens' arm is most likely from one of the churches that were destroyed, but what confuses Junwo is the fact that the sun deity did not survive, even though they were stronger than Luna. Our boy asks Rudens about the name of the sun deity, on which Rudens hides the sun symbol on his arm, telling Junwo that he is not allowed to recklessly say the name of the sun god because the current world is under the authority of Luna, the goddess of the moon, and there is no knowing what will happen to Rudens if they find out that he is trying to help the sun regain its former glory, advising Junwo to be careful, for he also possesses the power of the sun. Junwo gets shocked that he has the power of a deity, which he only heard about, so he begs Rudens to explain it a little more, as it is a matter of his life. However, Rudens does not want to spell it out for Junwo and tells him to remember the murals he saw. Rudens tells our boy that during the Holy War of the Ancient Age, the human world was invaded by the Demon King, so the sun and the moon worked in unison to protect humanity, though the moon coveted the overwhelming power of the sun, and in the end, erased the sun from the pages of history. Even though Rudens' way of telling the whole story was quite grand, Junwo realized that the summary of the story is that the Church of the Moon betrayed the Church of the Sun. Rudens continues that to make sure that they get rid of all records relating to the sun, the Church of Luna went after the Church of the Sun and erased any trace of their existence, thus causing the world to forget about such a great power. Junwo is perplexed as to how Rudens could have survived since Luna erased everything, so he asks Rudens to explain it, to which Rudens responds that he is not the only one who hid themselves away from Luna's eyes. But even though Rudens was able to hide himself from Luna, all of the surviving children of the sun were cursed by the Demon King, who, with the help of Luna, bestowed a curse that turned the children of the sun into monsters who cannot live or die. Junwo suddenly remembers that Adelia Dark, who later became the Death Knight of the Forgotten Church, must also have been a follower of the sun, which is the only explanation for Junwo to have the power of the sun. Rudens realizes that Junwo figured out the source of his powers, so he tells Junwo that besides him, Sepia also uses the power of the sun, which gives our boy yet another surprise, because he thought that it was just a powerful magic. Rudens tells Junwo that Sepia is the reason Rudens came to Libernas. However, there was a slight slip-up when Rudens was away for just a second that caused Sepia to get kidnapped, but Rudens believes that it was probably all part of the sun's plan to make Rudens meet Junwo. Junwo, who up until now believed that he was paving his own path, is amazed to find out that all of his encounters and coincidences were already planned by the sun deity. The scene then shifts to Scarlet, who is amazed to see the Libernas city get quite noisy, on which Priest Krupis tells Scarlet that it is also his first time seeing Libernas like this. Scarlet tells Priest Krupies to thoroughly investigate and include this celebration in the report. Scarlet is curious about the DIO about which Priest Krupies informed the Church of Luna, so she asks Priest Krupies about his whereabouts, to which the priest responds that he was with the captain of Libernas the last time he checked. This makes Scarlet curious about how they got to know each other, on which Priest Krupies tells Scarlet that he is not yet able to figure that out as the Night Corps has some of the best security one can find. From Krupies' statement, Scarlet understands that in Libernas, the Night Corps has far greater influence than the local Church of Luna, so she talks about the abilities and achievements of the captain of the Night Corps, on which Priest Krupies tells Scarlet that Sigmund has a reputation for valuing honor and being a faithful knight. Scarlet gets excited after she hears that Sigmund is a faithful knight, because, to her, shattering someone's faith has always been entertaining. Scarlet then orders Krupies to get ready as they are going to have a look at the great captain of the Night Corps. The scene shifts to Dino, who can hardly believe he ended up trapped in this world because of the so-called god of the game. While trying to process everything, he meets Rudin, who calmly tells him that this will be their final conversation since Sigmund is already on his way. Rudin knows Dino has countless questions, but assures him that the answers will come with time. For now, his mission is simple: travel to Estellum and find an old friend of Rudin's. Before disappearing, Rudin leaves him with one final warning, telling him to follow the revelations faithfully and never doubt them, because the sun will rise again. Moments later, Rudin vanishes, and Sigmund storms in with his forces searching for the intruder. The captain is stunned to find only Sepia and Dino standing there and immediately asks what in the world happened. Later that day, Dino finds himself locked in a jail cell and honestly cannot believe things somehow got even worse. He expected people to be suspicious because of his connection to demons, but he never imagined Rudin would cause such chaos and then disappear without a trace. Soon, Sigmund arrives and orders the guards to leave so he can question Dino privately. As soon as they are alone, Dino complains that this treatment is a bit much, considering Sigmund could practically call him a benefactor. Sigmund apologizes and explains that too many people were watching, but there is an even bigger problem. Someone from Luna territory came looking for a mercenary named Monty and wanted information about his involvement with demons. Dino is shocked to learn that the Church of Luna is searching for him. Sigmund reveals that the church demanded to interrogate both Dino and Sepia, but he refused their request. That immediately alarms Dino because the Church of Luna's influence stretches across the entire continent, and even the powerful knights of Libernas cannot openly oppose them. Sigmund admits he was worried they would discover Sepia's abilities if they questioned her. He also says Dino has not fully earned his trust yet, but there is no other choice. Then, to Dino's complete confusion, Sigmund suddenly breaks the jail bars. Before he can explain further, several knights rush into the room reporting that members of the Church of Luna are causing trouble outside. Sigmund quickly tells Dino to grab Sepia, who is resting in his room, and leave for Libernas immediately while he handles the church himself. Without wasting a second, Dino escapes and wonders whether Sigmund can really stop the Inquisitors. Back when he played the game, the Church of Luna stood alongside the players, but now they have become his enemy. Strangely enough, that realization makes him smile. Meanwhile, outside, Sigmund's knights try to calm Scarlet and apologize for the inconvenience, but she is furious. She mocks them for blocking the path of a saintess and talking about forgiveness, then instantly strikes down one of the knights. Seeing that, the remaining knights prepare for battle. Scarlet demands that they hand over Sepia and the mercenary who accompanied her, promising that the matter will end there. If they refuse, she declares she will defeat every one of them right now. Just before the situation explodes, Sigmund arrives and orders his men to stand down. Scarlet smirks and remarks that he must be the famous captain of the Knights of Libernas. Clearly angered, Sigmund asks how an inquisitor, someone trained to deliver judgment, could justify killing a knight. Scarlet coldly replies that the knight's fate was decided the moment he stood in her way. Her words infuriate the Libernas knights, who immediately prepare to fight, but Sigmund remains composed and orders everyone to stay back. He reminds Scarlet that the church's investigation was supposed to begin only after the knights completed theirs. Scarlet fires back that it is obvious he is hiding something, perhaps even protecting his younger sister. Frustrated, Sigmund explains that his sister is merely an innocent victim recovering from her injuries, and that the Knights of Liburnos will question her first once she is healed. But Scarlet has no intention of waiting. Without warning, she swings her sword and rushes straight at Sigmund. He barely manages to dodge the attack, and with a confident smirk, Scarlet asks what happens if she refuses to wait any longer. As both sides prepare for battle, Scarlet quietly realizes that if Sigmund was able to dodge her surprise attack, then he is more than capable of launching a counterattack. Yet strangely, he has not even reached for his sword. With a confident smile, she remarks that the rumors about the famous captain of the Knights of Liburnos and the title he earned seem to be true after all. Sigmund calmly responds that he is nothing compared to the goddess's red rose, but Scarlet is not interested in compliments. She instantly rushes forward at incredible speed, forcing Sigmund to block her strike. Frustrated by his refusal to fight seriously, she follows up with a powerful kick that drives him down to one knee. Annoyed, Scarlet demands to know why he keeps stalling if he has no intention of fighting and tells him to stop hiding behind excuses. Sigmund replies that he is simply being cautious while recalling how traces of demonic activity appeared in Liburnos the previous day, even though Scarlet had already arrived before that incident. He then points out that while Scarlet claims she wants to question his sister and the mercenary, he knows her real priority is the mercenary named Monty. Scarlet openly admits it, explaining that Monty is one of the key witnesses connected to the incident, making him far more important than the demonic investigation itself. From her perspective, Sigmund's actions are clearly meant to protect that mercenary. However, Sigmund insists there is a misunderstanding because he does not know anyone named Monty, and even the detained mercenary does not match the description. Scarlet studies his expression and realizes he does not appear to be lying, which only leaves her more confused. She cannot understand why he is willing to risk his life for this cause, whether it is because of a knight's pride or his family's safety, but either way, she decides it will be satisfying to break that resolve. At that moment, a knight from the Church of Luna rushes in and reports that the detained mercenary has vanished. The story then shifts to a short while earlier, where Dino is desperately navigating the prison. He knows the place is basically a giant maze that would be impossible to escape without prior knowledge, but thanks to his experience from the game, he is probably the only person who knows the hidden route. After finding the passage, he slips out exactly where he expected, behind the Knights of Liburnos residence. Hearing the commotion caused by the Church of Luna nearby, Dino immediately decides to rescue Sepia from the fourth floor of the palace. Since only Sigmund knows about his escape, Dino cannot risk being seen by either faction. Refusing to abandon Sepia, he checks his remaining items and discovers a transformation potion that allows him to become any designated target for 10 minutes. After transforming into a servant, he approaches a maid and casually asks where Sepia's room is, claiming he has a message from Sigmund. Once he finds the room and knocks, Sepia opens the door, only for Dino to quickly pull her inside and tell her they have no time to waste. When the potion's effect wears off, Sepia finally realizes it is him. Hearing knights approaching, Dino asks her to trust him and promises to explain everything later. Sepia agrees, and Dino hands her a petrification potion that temporarily turns its target into a statue. After using it, he places Sepia's statue inside his inventory. Since living beings normally cannot be stored there, this is a secret trick Dino discovered while testing the limits of his storage character. With everything prepared, he escapes before the pursuing knights can catch him. Soon, both suspects have completely disappeared, throwing the Knights of Liburnos and the Church of Luna into chaos. For now, Dino decides the only option is to continue toward Estellum, the city of the undead, and search for the friend Rudin mentioned. During their journey, we learn that Sigmund and Sepia were once orphans who struggled every day just to survive. Because of those hardships, Sepia grew up believing that people never offered kindness without expecting something in return, and for most of her life, she trusted no one except her brother. That belief only began to change after meeting Dino. Later, when Sepia wakes up, Dino immediately asks how she is feeling. Deep down, Sepia feels guilty for being separated from her brother and for constantly causing trouble because she is too weak to protect herself. Determined to change, she tells Dino that she wants to become strong enough to stand on her own and asks if it is possible while following him. Dino smiles and tells her that of course it is possible, but the challenges ahead will be far harsher than anything she has faced before. Without hesitation, Sepia excitedly says she will do her best. Seeing the determination in her eyes, Dino knows there is nothing more to discuss. He explains their current situation, telling her that they have been labeled as criminals, are now being pursued by the Church of Luna, and have obtained an important clue about her powers from Rudin. Sepia thanks him for helping her escape, but sadly admits she never got the chance to say goodbye to her brother. Dino encourages her to stay positive because they will meet again someday. He then gives her a crystal bow, a unique weapon designed for people with low physical stats. In truth, Dino has been thinking about how to raise Sepia's level ever since they arrived in Liburnos, and this weapon is perfect for her. According to Rudin, Sepia's talents are similar to those of a mage, but she first needs better accuracy before she can fully utilize magic. As they travel, Dino personally trains her, and the results are honestly insane. 1 month later, Sepia effortlessly takes down an orc with a single shot before using incredible agility to defeat another 1 moment later. Proud of her progress, she happily tells Dino that she can handle enemies like these now. Dino praises her performance, but internally he is completely shocked. Because Sepia already understood basic self-defense and movement, she absorbed every lesson at an unbelievable pace. In just half a month, her growth exploded to a level that even Dino never expected, proving that her potential is far greater than anyone imagined. After the battle, Sepia tells Dino that she is going to check if any orcs are still lurking around. As she leaves, Dino reflects on how she still has not learned to control the mysterious power of the sun. If she ever masters it, she would be absolutely unstoppable. Right now, the power only appears instinctively whenever she is in danger, and every time it activates, she ends up collapsing afterward. While thinking about that, Dino checks her status and is stunned by what he sees. Sepia has already reached level 30, yet her class remains undiscovered. That immediately raises questions in his mind, making him wonder if some special quest is required to unlock it. Looking around, he notices weapons left behind by the orcs. Since orcs do not farm and usually live in large groups, this can only mean one thing: there must be an orc cave somewhere nearby. When Sepia returns and asks if something is wrong, Dino tells her they need to make a quick stop before heading to Astellum because there is someone he wants to meet, a witch. In this world, witches occupy a strange position somewhere between monsters and NPCs. Some are treated as villains, while others offer quests and assist adventurers. The shadow mage they are seeking falls right in the middle. She lives inside an orc cave, possesses a terrifying level 150, drops valuable items, and is also the disciple of the Mage of Equilibrium, the strongest mage in the world. More importantly, she might know something about Sepia's strange status and mysterious power. Sepia cautiously asks if this witch can be trusted. Dino honestly admits he is not sure, but witches possess valuable knowledge, and they also happen to be weak against fire magic. Besides, he already has a plan, so there is no need to worry. The scene then shifts to Hafner Canyon, where deep inside a cave, a crow informs the witch about approaching intruders. Hearing the report, she orders the orcs to deal with them. Outside, Sepia quickly locates the cave but notices there are no guards in sight. Dino immediately tells her to wait because the mage already knows they are here. If they want an audience with her, they first need to deal with the orcs. Confident in her abilities, Sepia says she can handle a few orcs easily, but Dino warns her not to get overconfident. According to him, reading the map always comes first because that is what separates skilled adventurers from amateurs. Simply understanding the terrain can dramatically increase the chances of victory. He explains that the recommended level for this cave is around 90, meaning they need a proper strategy. Since he is traveling with Sepia, he gives specific instructions. She is to hold the guard post and focus on defense. At most, she should fight 3 orcs at once, and if she becomes surrounded, she must retreat immediately. Sepia agrees without arguing, which relieves Dino because arrogance can bring down even the strongest fighter. With the plan set, Sepia moves into position and signals that she is ready. Dino gives the order, and she instantly drops 1 orc before charging into battle. The two work together surprisingly well, coordinating their attacks like a seasoned team. Before long, Sepia defeats 3 orcs on her own. After the fight, Dino hands her water and feels relieved to see she escaped without any injuries. She has grown noticeably stronger, and when her status window appears, it reveals she has already reached level 49. Dino realizes she will need proper equipment once she reaches level 50. If only he knew her class, he could have crafted the perfect weapon already. Curious, Sepia asks whether the mage will even talk to them after all the chaos they caused. Dino admits she will probably be angry, but assures her that he has a solution. As they venture deeper into the cave, Sepia notices there are no more orcs around. Dino explains that only the orc shaman remains, but they are not going to defeat it. Their goal is to earn the witch's cooperation, and since they have already wiped out most of her workforce, eliminating the last one would make negotiations much harder. Soon, Dino discovers a hidden shortcut leading directly to the laboratory. Back when he played the game, players endlessly debated whether this path was an intentional feature or simply a bug. Intrigued, Sepia points out that Dino seems to know an awful lot about places like this and asks if he has been here before. Dino completely ignores the question and simply tells her to keep moving. Eventually, they arrive at the witch's laboratory, where the mage is already waiting for them. Turning around with a smirk, she sarcastically thanks them for destroying the orcs and ruining enough food supplies to last her an entire year. Dino immediately fires back, joking that it sounds like she is having a rough time with food shortages. The comment only makes her angrier. Furious about her defeated orcs, she unleashes a powerful aura that instantly puts Sepia on guard. Before things can escalate, Dino steps forward and introduces himself as an Eastern doctor who crossed the Eastern Sea after hearing rumors about a mage researching knowledge in Hafner Canyon. He politely asks for her assistance. Still annoyed, the mage bluntly refuses. Smiling calmly, Dino apologizes and offers compensation in the form of gold. When he notices her expression soften slightly, he pulls out 2 more bags filled with gold coins. The mage's eyes widen in disbelief. She cannot believe someone is carrying that much money around. For a moment, she remembers her master's advice about maintaining her dignity and proudly declares that she does not care about gold. Unfortunately for her, Dino is just getting started. He explains that the gold is only compensation and then reveals the real gift, the essence of fire. The moment she sees it, her entire attitude changes. Dino knows it is an incredibly rare item, but thanks to his overflowing warehouse, he has more than enough to spare. He casually tells her that he can provide as many as she needs. Hearing that, the mage instantly changes her tone and invites them to sit down first. Once everyone is seated, she introduces herself as Evelyn, disciple of the Mage of Equilibrium. Dino and Sepia introduce themselves as well. Then, after taking one look at Sepia, Evelyn casually remarks that she recognizes her as the child born with the power of the sun. The revelation hits like a truck, leaving Dino completely stunned. Dino is completely caught off guard and immediately wonders how Evelyn knows about Sepia's connection to the power of the sun. Did Rudin tell her, or is the Shadow Mage somehow connected to the Order of the Sun as well? Curious, he asks how she knows such a thing, and Evelyn casually explains that she learned it from her teacher. She then reveals that her teacher is one of the 7 stars of Walpurgis Night, and surprisingly, Rudin is also one of them. Dino has absolutely no idea what that means, but before he can ask further, Evelyn becomes distracted by the fire essence and starts admiring it. Dino hands over the orb and asks her to explain everything she knows. Evelyn reveals that Walpurgis Night is a secret organization made up of 7 individuals who share the same goal. The 7 strongest devotees of the sun are known as the 7 stars. Hearing that, Dino immediately compares them to the pentagram, the 5 representative boss monsters from the game. Since the Witch of Equilibrium was one of the pentagram members, he starts wondering whether these are rival groups or entirely separate factions. Evelyn continues, explaining that although the power of the sun has long been forgotten, traces of it remain scattered across the continent, and the mission of the 7 stars is to locate those remnants. Dino asks what happens once they find them, and Evelyn reveals that, according to her teacher, they intend to resurrect the sun and restore order to the world. He instantly realizes such a goal would completely overturn the world currently controlled by the Church of Luna and could trigger a massive upheaval across the entire game world. Suddenly, everything starts making sense. The game system has been steadily guiding him toward the sun and its followers all along. Not long ago, Dino was unsure whether opposing the Church of Luna was even possible, but if the Witch of Equilibrium, one of the legendary pentagram members, is connected to this cause, then maybe standing against the Church is not as impossible as it seemed. Wanting to learn more, Dino asks if there are other sun devotees among the mages. Evelyn says she cannot be certain, but every student of her teacher dedicates their research to uncovering the mysteries of the sun. Dino finally understands why she was so obsessed with obtaining the fire essence. When he asks what exactly she researches, Evelyn immediately replies that she is searching for the power of the sun itself. Seeing the frustration on her face, Dino jokes that she seems to have quite a few complaints. Evelyn instantly starts venting, saying she is already 26 years old and still has no clue where to even begin looking for a power that disappeared thousands of years ago. She grumbles about her teacher for assigning such an impossible mission in the first place. Surprisingly, Sepia gently points out that maybe her teacher gave her that task because she truly believed in her abilities. The simple comment completely melts Evelyn's heart, and she happily hugs Sepia on the spot. After the mood settles down, Dino asks the question that matters most. Can Evelyn help Sepia control the power of the sun? Evelyn immediately begins examining Sepia's mana and asks whether the power appears when she experiences intense emotions. Sepia confirms that it activates whenever her life is in danger, but afterward, she always faints. After thinking for a moment, Evelyn admits that she cannot teach Sepia to fully control the power of the sun yet. However, she can help prevent the fainting and loss of control. Dino is surprised to hear that and listens carefully as Evelyn demonstrates her shadow magic. She creates a clone, but this is not just a simple copy. It possesses a separate personality entirely. Evelyn explains that she can place one of Sepia's hidden personalities in control whenever the power of the sun activates, allowing her to stay conscious instead of collapsing. Dino immediately finds the idea risky because it sounds like someone else would be taking over Sepia's body. Evelyn disagrees, explaining that every person contains multiple sides to their personality, and she would simply be bringing one of those sides to the surface. Even so, Dino remains cautious, though he admits it would be incredibly useful if Sepia could stay awake while using her power. Evelyn then points out that even if they solve that issue, Sepia still needs to learn how to use magic properly. Sepia admits she has never used magic before, so Evelyn recommends starting with basic magical theory. She warns that all of it will be pointless if Sepia lacks the talent to manipulate mana, but Sepia refuses to back down and says she still wants to try because she might have the talent after all. Watching her determination, Dino cannot help but feel impressed. With that, they begin training immediately. Evelyn releases mana into the air and asks Sepia whether she can feel anything. Sepia shakes her head and says no. Evelyn sighs and explains that it will take a lot of work, but that is normal for beginners. Before anyone can use magic, they must first learn to sense mana itself. Otherwise, magic is completely impossible. Dino then asks whether training under Evelyn will help Sepia gain better control over her power. Evelyn honestly admits she is not sure and warns that proper training could take several months. Hearing that, Dino quickly points out that they cannot afford to stay in one place for that long and decides it is time to leave. He calls for Sepia to come with him, but the moment he turns around, he freezes in shock. Standing there, Sepia has successfully manifested mana. Evelyn's eyes widen just as much as Dino's, leaving both of them completely stunned by what they are seeing. And things get even worse when they realize she has no idea how to stop the spell. With her mana running wild, there is a real chance Evelyn's entire laboratory could be destroyed. Acting fast, Evelyn casts a water spell and successfully shuts the magic down before any damage is done. Still shocked, she asks how Sepia managed to use magic when she cannot even sense mana. Confused herself, Sepia simply explains that she felt a warm sensation and followed it. Hearing that answer almost gives Evelyn a headache. She complains that this warm feeling nearly destroyed her lab and realizes that what Sepia experienced is something extremely rare known as mana's ego, a phenomenon she had only heard about in stories. Curious, Dino asks if that means Evelyn will not be able to teach Sepia after all. To his surprise, Evelyn says the exact opposite. In fact, teaching her should be much easier now because Sepia can already use magic despite only knowing the theory behind it. Listening to this, Dino starts connecting the dots. Sepia's abilities seem strangely similar to those of players. Players cannot naturally detect mana either, yet they can still use magic once they learn the required skills. If that comparison is correct, then Sepia's growth may depend on raising her level just like a player character. Wanting to know how much time they are dealing with, Dino asks how long it would normally take someone to learn magic theory. Evelyn explains that it varies from person to person, but it took her 5 months just to master the basics. That answer immediately worries Dino because they do not have months to spare. He still has countless things to do, and he cannot simply leave Sepia behind. Unexpectedly, Evelyn offers a solution by announcing that she will travel with them. Dino is caught off guard and asks what about all her research and materials. Evelyn casually replies that Sepia is the one who possesses the power of the sun, so following her is the most important research opportunity imaginable. Honestly, Dino cannot argue with that logic. On top of that, Evelyn is the trusted disciple of the Mage of Equilibrium, making her an incredibly valuable ally. She assures Dino that she will not be a burden and will actually help them on their journey. Dino then asks Sepia what she thinks about the arrangement. Without hesitation, Sepia politely bows and calls Evelyn teacher, asking her to take good care of her from now on. The moment she hears that title, Evelyn practically lights up with happiness. Meanwhile, far away, the scene shifts to a secret gathering where all 7 stars of Walpurgis Night have assembled. One of the members is furious and demands to know where the child carrying the power of the sun has gone. Rudin calmly explains that he directed them toward Estellum. Hearing this, Crassus, another member of the 7 stars, explodes in anger. He cannot believe Rudin would send the first wielder of the sun's power to appear in thousands of years into such a dangerous place. In his frustration, he even draws his bow and points it at Rudin. Before things can escalate, another member reminds him that the 7 stars are forbidden from fighting one another. Crassus clicks his tongue in annoyance, declares that he is heading to Estellum himself, and storms out. The story then returns to Dino's group, who have arrived in Petunia during the middle of a snowfall. Evelyn stares at the falling snow in amazement and asks what it is because this is her first time ever seeing it. Having spent her entire life in the East, she rarely traveled anywhere since mages almost never leave their research behind. Sepia then asks Dino whether he is feeling cold, but he casually says he is fine and decides they should take shelter inside a nearby cave to escape the harsh wind. Once inside, Sepia volunteers to start a fire and quickly creates one using her newly learned magic. Evelyn watches with clear admiration, impressed by how naturally Sepia can already use fire spells. Dino reflects on how much Sepia has grown during the 2 weeks they spent training with Evelyn. He never expected such rapid progress, but seeing the results with his own eyes, he finally admits that Evelyn is a genuine genius when it comes to teaching magic.